Someone say something. Is it working now? Everything lagged and then it just stopped apparently. But it said I was still streaming, I just had no connection or something. I don't fucking know, dude. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what YouTube's problem is. Whoa. Hello.
It looks like it has stopped streaming YouTube.
Yeah, I stopped and started it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
It's okay. Is it working now? I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. Okay, I think it's working. I think it's working. No idea how many people are watching now though. Do I give it a sec or do I just fucking get on with it? I can see you, yeah. I can see you. I think everything's working. It's just telling me I've still got 48 viewers, which is apparently not true. Okay, okay. It's starting to get back. Let's just keep watching this stupid fucking video and whatever else. What do I think of this video so far? It fucking sucks. I don't know why anyone got involved in this, to be honest. It's about what I expect from something put together by Suris, because he is very shit at all of this and should leave trans people alone. Just fuck your fucking trans girlfriend and have your fucking trans friends and stop fucking advocating for us. None of us asked you for it. None of us want it except whoever fucking enjoys you because you pander to them, which is not a good reason to talk about a group because they like it when you pander to them. That isn't good enough. Fuck this shit. Hate it, hate it, hate it, but I guess we have to keep watching. So, I don't know.
6. Trans identity isn't valid because an identity must describe a truth about the person claiming it.
Well, I think I'll start by asking a favorite question of the Christian apologists. What do you mean by truth? There are two kinds of truth, objective and subjective. Objective truth are things that are true regardless of the perceptions of an observer. If there is a rock on a beach, then that rock exists on that beach whether it is observed or not, so it is objectively true that the rock is on the beach. But there's also subjective truth, and this one is often overlooked or dismissed in these discussions.
Yeah, subjective truth doesn't really exist. Something can't be a truth if it's subjective, I don't think.
This is when someone can say that something is true for them, but is not necessarily true for everyone. For example, The Core is an enjoyable movie. That is my truth, but judging by its 39% critic score and 34% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, I have discovered that my truth is not true for everyone. Identity is the second kind of truth, and there's a lot more to identity than just gender. I am a straight-leaning...
So you're saying identity is subjective. I mean, I guess it is, you know.
Pansexual cis man, but all of that is actually a relatively minor part of my identity. Far more important is parent, partner, science nerd, science fiction geek, that sort of thing. Some of these do correspond to objective truths. I have children, for instance, but some do not. My enjoyment of science fiction is purely subjective.
This is a weird way of putting this. This looking dead. What do you mean? What do you mean? As in, like, the stream isn't working? Don't freak me out. Don't freak me out. Jesus Christ. We're gonna be here all fucking day. day. No, it's working fine. It's working fine. Jesus Christ. Okay, so he's saying, is it an objective or subjective truth that I enjoy certain music or that I enjoy certain films? This is a really weird way of putting it. Like, the subjective truth is whether a movie or a piece of music is good or not. You know? I don't feel this. I don't think he's using these terms correctly.
And is something that I
Like, it's not like someone else can say, oh no, I actually don't think that you enjoy this or that. I mean, I don't get this, man.
express through my behaviors.
So something you'll hear all the time is every truth about someone operates on a system of self-identity.
Really? Because that's not something that I've heard. My weight, for instance, is not something that is based on self-identity. The fact that I see better with glasses is not based on self-identity. My hopefully temporary inability to grow hair in this one patch on my chin is not based on self-identity. Gender identity, though, is something that is based on self-identity. It would be helpful at this point to go over the difference between gender and sex. Sex is based on...
Yeah, and that's weird as well. Gender identity is not based on self-identity. It is self-identity. And it's based on how you feel, your opinions, like your preferences for this or that or the other.
On anatomy, and in
And like your experiences and stuff.
humans is a bimodal spectrum, which means that most...
Not true at all. You need to actually show this rather than just say it's bimodal. That's all anyone does. Oh no, it's actually bimodal because intersex people exist. It's bullshit. You need to actually show that it's bimodal or stop fucking saying this.
Most people fall into one of two categories, but there is overlap in the defining characteristics of these categories. And not just a little bit of overlap. Regardless of which human sex characteristic you choose, primary, secondary, tertiary, doesn't matter, there have been instances of people existing in ways that blur the lines. As an example, breasts are a female secondary sex characteristic, and yet...
And like breasts are something that develop as a result of like your anatomy, as a result of your like reproductive system. Like you have ovaries, so you produce like way more estrogen than testosterone. And that's what develops. Like, it's bizarre to try and use breasts as part of how you would categorize someone as male or female. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yet, the most common gender-affirming surgery performed on minors in the United States is breast reductions for cisgender males. That is, boys who are minors are a female secondary sex characteristic. And yet, the most common gender-affirming surgery performed on minors...
I hate this as well. If a mastectomy, like, it's gender affirming if it affirms your gender. But is that always why someone gets that in order to affirm their gender? I don't like this kind of lumping it in as gender affirming.
minors in the United States is breast reductions for cisgender males.
Like, to me, if they're... I don't know how to put this. It's really fucking annoying. Like, gender-affirming care is gender-affirming if it affirms your gender. If you're not getting your tits cut off as a male to affirm your gender, then it's not gender-affirming. So whether something is gender-affirming or not depends on the person's attitude going into it. If they don't believe in any of this, if they're just, I've got these and I don't want them, and they're not thinking about their gender, they don't feel like less of a man because they have tits. They just are aware that they wouldn't generally have tits. They probably hurt when they're growing and stuff like that, and they don't want them. That's not gender affirming then. If they feel like less of a man and taking these off makes them feel more comfortable as a man in their male body, then I think you could call that gender affirming, but it's not automatically gender affirming. And I hate this way of putting it. The reason they do this is to talk about like gender affirming care for minors without talking about gender affirming care for minors. So they'll always talk about like boys getting their tits cut off, but not girls, you know?
That is, boys who are assigned male at birth identify as boys but develop breasts during puberty. For these boys, their gender is based on self-identification, but the fact that they develop...
Their gender is based on self-identification. Is it? You're just telling a bunch of people how they feel in relation to their gender. Not everyone feels this way. Most, like, cis boys or whatever, they don't identify as boys. They just are aware that they are boys. And they would call themselves a boy, so technically you would say they self-identify. But they just are what they are. They just don't see it the same way. I don't believe that everyone has a gender identity at all.
Breasts is not. If, however, we were to take the opening statement of this section at face value, identity must describe a truth about the person claiming it, then we now have an issue. The biological truth for these boys is that they developed female characteristics.
Oh, fuck me. You're so stupid. You're actually so dumb. You're actually so fucking dumb. What are you talking about? What's the genitalia? Like, there are things you look at when determining someone's sex before you start going to breasts. You would start looking at whether someone has breasts or not, if it's not clear from, like, the fucking genitalia. Whether they grow breasts or not doesn't fucking matter because they're still male. It doesn't make them more female. It doesn't blur the lines. That's just a man with tits, you get him. Anyone that eats too fucking much every day is probably gonna grow tits. That doesn't make them part female now. Oh my god.
Of this section, but the fact that they develop breasts is not. If, however, identify as boys but develop breasts during puberty. For these boys, their gender is based on self-identification, but the fact that they develop breasts is not. If, however, we were to take the opening statement of this section at face value, identity must describe a truth about the person claiming it, then we now have an issue.
No, we don't. The breasts are so far down when it comes to self-identifying. They've still got fucking penises.
Biological truth for these boys is that they developed female characteristics.
Breasts aren't a female characteristic. What are you talking about? They primarily occur because of estrogen, but a male can have too much estrogen. So it's not strictly a female characteristic. Just like having facial hair isn't strictly a male characteristic. And when you start putting them in categories of male or female, you're talking about shit with a lot of overlap, which makes it even more confusing as to how bimodal is even, like, measured. Because wouldn't you put having a penis? Wouldn't that be worth far more points than whether you've got breasts or not? Like, it's so stupid.
If their gender identity must describe a truth, then what gender are they?
Male, they've got a fucking penis.
They have a mixture of male and female anatomy.
If you're a male with gynecomastia and you now identify as a woman, that doesn't make your identity more valid than a male that doesn't have gynecomastia. That doesn't make any sense. Again, that's like saying that fat men have more claim to being slightly woman than skinny men do.
And the identities of boy and girl aren't able to describe that truth. So the way we deal with this is by allowing them to self-identify. He says that he is a boy, so we call him a boy despite the presence of female sex characteristics.
This is painful. This guy sucks. This guy is awful. Stop talking about trans people. You're not trans yourself. No one fucking asked you to, and if they did, they were wrong to ask you to. Just fucking stop. Stick to fucking arguing with Christoids about whether there's a man in the sky or not.
Oh, but that's a secondary sex characteristic. Obviously, we use the primary to make the determination. No, that was just the example that I used because often transphobes will complain about all the gender-affirming surgeries performed on minors, but for some reason they...
Oh, so you went off on one about something that's got nothing to do with the fucking... What a fucking retard, man.
Don't seem to notice, or care, that the vast majority of such surgeries have nothing to do with transgender kids. But if...
Yes, or gender, depending on how the person goes in feeling, depending on why the person wants it doing. It's not gender affirming if it's not affirming their gender, obviously. You only lump it in for the exact reason you just fucking described.
If you want primary sex characteristics, there's a bunch of overlap there as well. A 2023 case report, for instance, documents a person with a condition known as true hermaphroditism. These are people who have both ovarian and testicular tissue, often with ambiguous external genitals. In this case, the person had both a penis and a vagina, a uterus, and developed breasts during puberty. If gender identity must describe a truth about a person, what should this person's gender identity be? I'll tell you what it
Well, they can probably pick and choose because their sex is ambiguous. I don't know. You can pick and choose anyway. I don't agree really with the assertion that it has to map onto something real. It can map onto something not real if you want. I just am not obligated to take it seriously either way. And if you start obliging people to take people's self-described gender identities seriously, then there's a fucking problem. There's like two ever. Yeah. There is a really tiny handful of people that might legitimately be able to carry out either sex role. There has been like probably double figures at most amounts of people in history that potentially could perform either reproductive role. So we're talking about like nobody.
was. He identifies as a man. How do I know? Because that is his self-identity. Now,
Okay, so what if someone else self-identifies but is lying? But now you know they're a man, but they're lying. They're not actually a man. And they don't even think they're a man. They're just saying they think they're a man.
ultimately, intersex conditions are not really relevant to the discussion of trans people,
No, I agree. So why are you fucking talking about it?
except to provide an example of people for whom transphobes will accept gender identities that do
It's always like transphobe shit. I don't care about transphobes. What's the argument in response to his argument? I hate these people so much. Stop sticking up for my rights. I don't want you to. I didn't ask you to.
not match perfectly with sex characteristics. The purpose of this example is to point out that the relationship between sex and gender is often complex and nuanced, and while most people will identify with the sex that they are assigned at birth, it should not be the least bit surprising to us that this is not a universal truth.
That's actually a claim that I've already addressed in a previous video titled, Does Everybody Self-Identify? Long story short is people will say politics, religions, sexuality, nationality, all of these things are determined by your self-identity.
It's not so much that all of those things are determined by your self-identity, it's more that all of those things are aspects of your identity, and most of them have nothing to do with what biological markers.
Nah, come on. Oh, I hate this so much. Someone's actually trying to defend self-ID. The absolute worst way of conceptualizing trans.
Titled, Does Everybody Self-Identify? Long story short is people will say politics, religions, sexuality, nationality, all of these things are determined by your self-identity.
It's not so much that all of those things are determined by your self-identity, it's more that all of those things are aspects of your identity.
I think it's the other way round. Like, maybe, I don't know how to put this. Like, your identity is derived from those things. But it ultimately is just what you consider yourself, based on, like, your preferences and stuff. At least he's potentially admitting that, like, you know, your identity is not some innate fixed thing about you. Because it really isn't. You derive an identity from these things, you know? So maybe what he's saying is the same as what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm really trying with this.
Are determined by your self-identity. It's more that all of those things are aspects of your identity, and most of them have nothing to do with what biological markers you happen to have.
But all of this is confusing ontology and epistemology. Yes, sometimes the only reason you would know what's true of someone is because they've told you, but that doesn't mean them telling you is what causes that thing to be true.
Correct. And what is it that causes someone's gender identity to be what it is? Well, ultimately, that is a very complicated question to which we do not yet have a concrete answer.
It's quite simple. You have a certain amount of life experiences. You develop your preferences. You figure out what you like, what you don't like. And that informs what you think of yourself, what kind of person you think you are. And that extends to like things like gender. You see other men and other women around, or other boys and girls. And you see what you relate to and what you don't relate to. If you relate far more to girls when you're a male, that might inform some idea that maybe a part of you is like actually girl or something like that. I don't know.
True.
Correct. And what is it that causes someone's gender identity to be what it is? Well, ultimately, that is a very complicated question to which we do not yet have a concrete answer.
That's because it doesn't exist within any one person. It's things that you think of based on your experiences and what you like.
But there is every indication that gender identity does have its basis in biology.
I mean, you could say that anything that a human does and thinks and conceives of has a root in biology.
Although, honestly, this is a bit...
It's far more, if not completely, socially constructed. I'm sorry. If we're saying that there is something in your brain that means that you're going to be trans rather than cis or whatever, I just don't think that's true. There's no proof for any of that. And if you're going to start talking about brain fucking shit, I'm just actually going to end it all. I'm not really.
A bit of a red herring. In the vast majority of human interactions, whether someone's gender identity matches their sex assigned at birth is entirely irrelevant. Are you going to demand to see birth certificates of all your coworkers before agreeing to use their preferred pronouns? Or will you just accept them at their word because to do otherwise would be extremely rude? There are basically only two scenarios where it should matter to you if the contents of a person's underwear matches their gender identity, if you are their doctor or their sexual partner. In every other scenario that I can think of...
What about if they're walking behind you late at night? What about if you're in an enclosed space and someone comes in? You might be wondering which sex they are, if you're in like a female space or something.
It doesn't matter in the slightest.
What about when it's your doubles partner in tennis? Probably matters then, right?
In every other scenario that I can think of, it doesn't matter in the slightest.
It's because you haven't thought of almost any scenarios.
So for practical purposes, just accepting people at their word when they tell you their gender identity will be the best course of action.
This isn't even fucking true. I wonder about something. I wonder about something. And we've been looking at like fucking, I hate talking about fucking Firebat on my channel, but that's someone we've been looking at who, they very much look like a male. And to me, I just feel silly calling them she, just based on what I see and observe. And if that's how I feel, I'm just going to call them a he because I don't care, or a they, or whatever. Like, if we take someone that comes out as trans, like today, and we start now just treating them straight away as if they're a she and a her and they're a woman for all intents and purposes, isn't that going to cause them to overestimate their new kind of role in society, their new place, how people are going to perceive them? Aren't they now going to go out there thinking, okay, now I'm she, her, trans, and now I should use women's spaces, when they don't look anything like a woman? They haven't been on HRT and probably won't for a while. Like, I don't know. I think we should ease people into, like, pronouns and shit like that. We should, like, pronoun use should reflect how much they're actually embodying the sex they're going into. I don't think it's necessarily the kindest thing to call someone who has no fucking hope in hell of passing a she if they're a male. Because now they're going to get these ideas that they can use spaces that they shouldn't be using, that they're going to be treated a certain way. They're going to think that they can now apply themselves to a completely different experience that they're still not having because no one actually sees them as a woman. Like, I don't know. These people don't know, though. They don't understand. They don't have a fucking clue what it's actually like. Especially as someone who kind of has both experiences of passing and not passing as trans, because, or as a woman, because whether I look like a woman or not is kind of, it's like 50-50, I find, with people. Some say so and some say not, you know? But these people don't understand any of this.
Even if you don't think it matches their genitals. And here's the thing about that a lot of transphobes don't seem to realize. There are a lot of trans people that successfully pass as the gender they identify as, and there are a lot of cis people who do not. Given the proportion of the population...
Cis people are passing as... You don't pass if you're... Actually gonna lose my shit. You don't pass if you are cis. What is there to pass as? You are just... like... Oh, it's actually fucking painful. Maybe if we're using cis in a hyper, like, literal sense, you could say that, yes, they identify as a thing, and therefore that's what they are passing or not passing as. But then you're just talking about people who have a gender identity and still think it matches their sex, and you're not talking about all those people that don't believe in gender identity or anything like that, and just they are what they are. And their self-identity is just, you know, I am this. Like, this idea that we need to take concepts that specifically relate to trans people and relate them to every single person on Earth is so fucking annoying. Passing is a trans concept. You are one sex. You want to resemble the other because you want to live your life as the other. How much do you pass as the other? If you're so-called cis, there is nothing to pass as, you just are that thing. If you're like a female person who's very masculine looking, but you're still a woman, there's nothing to pass as, you just are that thing. There are no cis people that don't pass as who they are because they are who they are. There's no need for that framework to be in any way invoked.
Population that is trans, if
Oh, the best one so far was Dead Domain, but even they weren't amazing. And I say that, by the way, as someone that kind of disagrees with plenty of your video too, just so we're clear.
If you challenge someone's gender identity, then statistically, you are way more likely to be challenging a cis person than a trans person.
Okay, so what? Why does it matter if you challenge someone's gender identity? And why does it matter whether it's a cis person or a trans person whose gender identity you challenge? Okay, someone might challenge my gender identity and be like, I don't think you're actually a male, I think you're female. You can do that if you want. It's just not true. And even if it was true, I don't want it to be true or whatever shit. I don't know.
The only way you could know my age is if I told you, and I think I could probably get away with giving an inaccurate answer of at least up to 5 years. I mean, you might be surprised, but I don't think you disbelieve.
Yeah, I think the counter here would be, well, surely aren't you admitting, if you're going to compare it to identifying as 28 instead of 31, for example, aren't you suggesting that maybe self-ID in other ways can be harmless?
me. However, me telling you,
Like, assuming you actually come across as that and you can say that and people won't have a problem with it.
I'm a certain age doesn't determine the truth of me actually being that age. Same with politics, religion, sexuality.
But it is true, like, your identity is informed by truths about you, or your experiences, or your preferences, or, I don't know, I don't think it has to be objective truths. I think identities can come from very subjective and very nebulous kind of things. And if someone's self-identity is wrong, then it's wrong. That's why I don't put much emphasis on it. And I just care what people are as people, you know.
And nationality.
It's a bit disingenuous to list a bunch of characteristics that make up a person's identity and then to prove that they're all based in something that is objectively true about the person go with age, don't you think? Why wouldn't you use one of the other things for that, like, say, religion? How can you... And then to prove...
Actually being that age. Same with politics, religion, sexuality, and nationality.
It's a bit disingenuous to list a bunch of characteristics that make up a person's identity and then to prove that they're all based in something that is objectively true about the person go with age, don't you think? Why wouldn't you use one of the other things for that, like, say, religion? How can you determine if someone is a Christian?
Yeah, really the video should have been like, trans identity isn't valid. We're not actually invalidating trans, because trans can be conceptualized in a lot of ways. Like, that is an ultimate criticism, I guess, of the entire thing, is we're very much, here's the most retarded version of trans that exists, and it's, you are whatever you call yourself, and here's why that isn't valid. It's like, it's very easy to do that, because you're taking the most, like, retarded version of what trans is.
Other than them telling you. Or politics. Throughout my life, I've been all over the political spectrum, and it was part of my identity the whole time. In fact, using both this and religion...
Yes, listen, I get it. You're a white dude for Kamala. That probably is a huge part of your identity. I just don't care. Jesus Christ.
Things for that, like, say, religion. How can you determine if someone is a Christian other than them telling you?
Well, that's the only way... That's not the... No, this is like... You'll never know for sure whether someone is a Christian. You will never know if someone is a Christian for sure. They can tell you, but they might be lying. They could go to church, but they might just be there, like, because they're writing a book or something. They don't actually believe any of this, and they're just, you know, getting a character study for a priest so they can get down how they talk or something. But the only way, like, the only way you might think someone is a Christian is not because they tell you. You might see them going in and out of a church, for example. You might see them wearing a cross. Like, there's all sorts of things that might tell you whether someone is a Christian or not. It's a bit like, there's things that will tell you if someone is a leftist or not. So if someone's always going into the, like, let's say you look over someone's shoulder whilst they're voting and they check fucking Tories, but then they tell you that they're a leftist, that doesn't really make very much sense. And I guess they'd have to justify why they're voting Tory if they're a leftist. And maybe they have a certain reason to that makes sense, and maybe they don't. Maybe they call themselves a leftist except for that they're, you know, pro-free market and anti-immigration and, you know, want to remove regulations as much as possible and shit like that in a way that benefits like big business, you know?
Or politics. Throughout my life, I've been all over the political spectrum, and it was part of my identity.
Okay. So he's another Alec. He's another person that's like been far right and then been far left and shit like that. That does not surprise me at all.
Whole time. In fact, using both this and religion, you can see that identity is not even a constant. It is always in a state of flux. Who I was as a teenager...
I mean, that I agree with. Identity is in a state of flux because it's like a snapshot of who you are at the time, based on your preferences, experiences, etc.
would be horrified if you told them who I would become in my 30s. I was a conservative Christian. Now I'm a lefty atheist. In both cases, religion and politics were, and continue to be, a large part of my...
Honestly, I think people cite this kind of thing thinking it means that they must know what they're talking about because they used to be the thing that they're now shitting on. Me personally, I think it invalidates you. I think I'm less interested. I'm less interested when I hear about someone who's swung this wildly. And I say that as someone who's like changed my mind on stuff myself. But I've never really swung that far in either direction. I got a bit more gender critical for a while. I'm moving away from that a bit more now. But that's all like knowledge. That's the constant kind of learning and updating that is just any person.
Identity. But
like when it's very black and white, when it's, I was this, now I'm this. At a certain point in time, I was that. And it's all like very kind of polar opposite kind of things. That makes me wonder about you, honestly. That just makes me think maybe this person is getting into this kind of shit for other things rather than what they actually believe to be true. Perhaps they found community on one side or lost community on one side and found it somewhere else. And obviously it's refreshing because I found that with like the gender critical stuff. It's refreshing at first to hear shit that pushes back against the shit that you started to do your head in about like trans rights activists or something. But then inevitably stuff starts bothering you about the new people that you're now around with, you know what I mean? But that depends on how like intellectually honest you are, I guess. And like to some people it's more, well, these people are nice to me and I can vibe with at least some of what they're saying. I don't know. I don't trust people like this is what I'm saying.
what objectively true, measurable thing changed about me that could account for these changes in identity? Sure, I could lie to you and tell you that I'm a Christian.
Yeah, I will say, your identity can be more about your beliefs than something objectively true about you. Like, the problem is, I think this guy is a bit of a retard and thinks that whether someone has an opinion or not is subjective, which I guess it is, but he's not using it the same way as his example, which was, I think this movie is good. Well, maybe I could say that objectively you think this movie is good. It's you thinking that the movie is good that is subjective, because movies can't intrinsically be good or bad. That depends on what people get out of them. I don't know. It's a bit confusing. I think he's got his wires crossed a bit when it comes to like objective, subjective, and opinions and stuff like that. Because it's not really very important whether someone actually has an opinion in terms of their identity. Like, I don't know how to put this. Fuck's sake, Mark. I don't know how to put this. I'll keep thinking about it.
Now, but the reason that would be a lie is because it conflicts with my identity, not because it conflicts with some underlying objective truth.
This sounds stupid. Like, your identity isn't supreme over this kind of shit. Let me check that I'm getting what I think I'm getting here.
Religion, you can see that identity is not even a constant. It is always in a state of flux. Who I was as a teenager would be horrified if you told them who I would become in my 30s. I was a conservative Christian.
See how proud he is of this? It's so fucking weird, man. It's so fucking weird. Yeah, this is what I mean. I guess technically it is subjective as to whether a person has an opinion or not. But he used the example of whether a movie is good or not. But he's saying that whether you have an opinion or not is also subjective, but in the same way. It's really hard to explain what I mean. And listening to this guy is making my brain bleed, but like...
would be horrified if you told them who I would become in my 30s. I was a conservative Christian. Now I'm a lefty atheist. In both cases, religion and politics were, and continue to be, a large part of my identity. But what objectively true, measurable thing changed about me that could account for these changes in...
Like, he has like half a point here, because I think that fundamentally an identity must describe a truth about the person claiming it does not have to be the case at all. But, like, I guess technically, like, generally you would derive your identity from things that you believe to be true about you. It's kind of, I don't know, it's hard.
An identity. Sure, I could lie to you and tell you that I'm a Christian now, but the reason that would be a lie is because it conflicts with my identity.
No, it's because you don't believe in... It's not a lie if you're an atheist to say I'm a Christian. That isn't a lie because it conflicts with your identity. It's not a lie because it conflicts with you identifying as an atheist. It's a lie because you don't believe in God, but you are saying that you do, which is what informs your identity as an atheist. Like, it's not true to call yourself a Christian when you're not a Christian, because you're lying about your beliefs in that area. Like, it's nothing to do with your identity. Your identity comes from that shit. Like, it's just we're just placing too much importance on identity. It doesn't actually fucking matter that much. It's just what you call yourself. And whether, like, if someone tells me that they identify as something or they like something or whatever, then I'll probably take it as read. And if I get a lot of signs from someone that actually isn't the case, then I might kind of question this person. I might like not trust them anymore. You know what I mean?
Not because it conflicts with some underlying objective truth.
Even if I could never ever prove what you're saying is wrong, that doesn't prove what you're saying is correct.
But when it comes to matters of self-identification, as mentioned earlier...
Yeah, like the answer is like all this gender shit is like subjective. It's all socially constructed. It's all shit that we apply over reality. And that's what we're quibbling about, you know?
From a pragmatic standpoint, in your daily interactions, it would be prudent to not challenge people.
Where I say Christian. What's wrong with saying Christian? Someone said this to me before. What's wrong with saying Christian? Christian. I don't say the H. I don't say Tristian. I should start saying Tristian. I'm going to do that. Starting now. Okay. What am I supposed to say? Christian. You're a Christian. Christian. Like Christian. I don't want to say that. That's wrong. That sounds wrong to me.
People when they tell you about their own identity.
However, in the case of me being a man based on my sex, it doesn't matter whether I tell you that.
How does he say Christian? Does he say Christian or like Christian?
It certainly doesn't matter whether you believe it, because me being biologically male is an objectively true fact of the natural world.
Yes, but remember, sex and gender are different things, and even if they weren't, they're identity.
However, in the case of me being a man based on my sex, it doesn't matter whether I tell you that. It certainly doesn't matter whether you believe it, because me being biologically male is an objectively true fact of the natural world.
Yes, but remember, sex and gender are different things, and even if they weren't, there are a significant number of people for whom it is unclear which gender label they should get based on their sex. So either way, the world doesn't work the way that you're claiming it does.
Indeed, every single identity
I can't even be bothered. I can't even be fucked to respond to any more this fucking person. This is like fucking... Every single thing about every single thing that is going on is just making my fucking brain bleed out of my ears. I don't know who is watching this. I don't know who the fuck is watching this. Oh, you also say Christian. See, there's nothing wrong with saying Christian. It's a perfectly valid pronunciation. Like, the only people watching this are the people that are like devout followers at any one of these people in the first place. And they'll just go along with whatever the fucking person says. Who is gonna watch this from like the outside looking in and not just want to fucking die after 10 minutes? Oop, you're closeted apparently. You're closeted. You're an egg. Oh yeah, you're gonna transition one day. You're gonna trune out one day. You can't say that, but I can because I have the TR pass.
is making...
Like, every time I press the button, I feel like I'm just going back to torturing myself at this point.
pretty clear claims, even if...
Here's a fairly long-winded and wordy video. Let's make 10 long-winded, wordy as fuck responses to it. Whose idea was this? You fucking people are transphobes, okay? You are all psyops. You are all transphobic psyops. That's what's going on here.
If those claims can be at times hard to identify.
It's not that they're hard to identify, it's that they are often based in things like beliefs and feelings. And when it comes to personal identity, beliefs and feelings are perfectly valid.
But with...
I guess I agree.
Trans identity...
Again, with the caveat that I just don't think that identity matters very much. Self-identity specifically.
Identity, the issue is it's not even clear what a biological male is actually saying by identifying as a woman.
They are saying that they feel like the gender identity of woman is a better fit for them than the gender identity of man.
So just, I'd rather call myself a woman than a man. Wow, okay, amazing. The worst thing is, like, the identity thing actually, to me, unironically does suggest that it's actually just delusion. Like, that's kind of how I see self-ID as a model for how trans should work, or how it does work. To me, it's like, yeah, no, we're actually delusional. I actually just literally think I'm a woman rather than a man. Rather than knowing I'm male, being unhappy being male, would prefer to be the other sex. And just feel like that. I don't really know why. I hate that so much. I actually fucking despise it.
Also, I don't know if anyone
I just don't think the average trans person is delusional, okay?
is a better fit for them than the gender identity of man. Also, I don't know if anyone else is going to bring this up, but just in case they don't, it is worth mentioning that I have noticed that this guy seems obsessed with trans women and doesn't even seem to be aware of the existence of trans men.
Yes, he claims to be a feminist, so talks about it through the lens of women's issues. It's not hard.
It strikes me
You probably also do the fake male feminist thing. Not that I'm saying you're a fake male feminist. I don't know if you're fake or not with your feminism.
as more than a little bit odd.
If I say...
What's he saying? I'm not even like fucking trying anymore, to be honest. I'm just waiting for him to go away so that someone else who raises my fucking blood pressure can come on, because that's where we're at now. It's just, it's going badly. It's going badly.
Say I am 25 years old, you know exactly what I am saying there. I'm saying that the Earth has revolved around the sun.
Yeah, see... Well, if you were to say that you're old, though, what does that mean? If you were to say, I'm a liberal, what does that mean? To me, the TRA movement feels religious for some reason. Well, yeah, they base a lot of things on, like, unfalsifiable claims. Most of which I think are pretty ridiculous.
25 times since I was born. There's a clear external material referent for that claim.
Like, this just kind of raises the issue, well, there's a lot of different ways that people identify, some of which are very specific to specific things, and some of which are, you know, kind of nebulous. Oh, fucking hell, dude. Nyaraviti, then Luxander. That is sadism. That is fucking sadism, okay? Putting those two not only together, but at the end, like, I'm horrified. This was specifically done to trigger the ever-loving fuck out of me. Anyway.
Yeah, but there's also more to it than that from an identity perspective. You're also saying that you are now old enough to rent a car, to enter into contracts, to watch porn, and that you're young enough that we can likely make some assumptions about you. You're probably...
This guy's such a fucking transphobe that even used watch porn as an example of what it now means that you're 25. That's how much this person thinks that we're fucking disgusting stereotype, fucking diaper-wearing fucking freaks that can't stop fucking masturbating. I know your fucking game glasses, boy.
Probably a bit impulsive. You're probably in decent health. You probably prefer using a smartphone over a PC. Well, it is true that the Earth has orbited the sun 25 times since your birth. The important things about being 25 are the aspects of it that are
What? Whatever, man. Whatever. Me personally, if someone tells me their age, I don't instantly think, wow, I bet this guy's in the prime of his life. I bet he's well fit, you know? I bet he's like fucking jacked as fuck. Well, no, you just kind of can see what someone looks like. You can intuit whether they're like likely to be healthy or not, all this kind of shit. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about anymore.
part of the social construct. There isn't an objective fact about reality that makes 25-year-olds able to rent a car. That is just the typical minimum age that rental companies use. Gender, likewise, is a social construct. That does not mean that it's unimportant or doesn't matter. Money is also a social construct, after all. I am a cisgendered man. My gender identity is man. Part of being a man in my culture is that I don't wear dresses. I have worn a dress in the past.
No, that's not part of being a man. That's just like, okay, sure.
And while doing so, I felt extremely uncomfortable. There wasn't some objective fact about reality that made me uncomfortable. I didn't fact.
Yeah, this fucking guy seems like the kind of fucking guy that would put on a dress once and be like, oh my god, this is how trans men must feel. You have no idea, bro. You have no idea. Shut up.
Uncomfortable in the dress. I felt uncomfortable. Now, obviously, there is way more to gender than just preferences regarding stereotypes. My point is that my being uncomfortable in a dress was not in any way based on my physical anatomy.
Yes, it was probably just that you looked fucking stupid in it, and you were aware that you looked fucking stupid in it.
It was based on my gender identity. But
his gender identity is why he was... So you are, like, completely selling it out that it's based on, like, stereotypes. And that if you're comfortable in a dress, that suggests that your gender identity must lean towards female. That's so fucking dumb. I hate that. I actually fucking hate that. Okay, I hate that. Like, the reason men don't tend to wear dresses is that most men look fucking terrible in dresses. It just doesn't look good. That's why you're uncomfortable in a dress. It's because you know it looks like shit on you. And that you're embarrassing yourself. It's got nothing to do with your gender identity. And if it is, you've internalized gender way too much, I think. And it sounds like actually you're a bit insecure in your gender identity. Oh shit. I better not like this because otherwise I might be slightly woman. It sounds almost like, I don't know. It sounds almost misogynist in a way.
In any way based on my physical anatomy. It was based on my gender identity.
But if I said I'm a woman, I don't think I could...
Like, your gender identity is informed by the fact that you don't like wearing dresses, not the other way around. You don't dislike wearing dresses because of your gender identity. This is stupid.
Even pretend that I know what I'm saying when I make that claim. It doesn't seem to me like most trans activists can even pretend that either.
What that says to me is that you haven't actually asked any trans activists what they meant by that. Essentially, to be a woman is to have the gender identity that closely aligns with the socially constructed category of woman.
I hate that so much. I hate this shit. I hate this shit. This needs to be, like, fucking stamped out. People need to start actually fucking speaking up. If trans people don't like being fucking represented by shit like this, they actually need to fucking say something about it, okay? It's so annoying.
When I make that claim, it doesn't seem to me like most trans activists can even pretend that either.
What that says to me is that you haven't actually asked any trans activists what they meant by that. Essentially, to be a woman is to have the gender identity that closely aligns with the socially constructed category of woman.
That's fucking utterly retarded. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. But like, if, like, don't like butch lesbians and super effeminate guys kind of destroy this logic altogether. Because if you're a butch lesbian, you probably don't really associate with, you probably don't really like identify with very much of like female stereotypes or like what it means to be a woman in culture. And your answer would be, well, those things don't define me. I'm a female person. I can do what the fuck I like and I'm still a woman. And that's how they feel. This is kind of suggesting that what we see as a woman matters. Well, like objectively, that doesn't work, you know? That doesn't really work as an overall definition of woman. So then surely the overall definition of woman should mean adult human female. And then there's like, that's why trans woman exists, because that's not a female, but it's someone trying to live as a female, rather than trying to make woman all-encompassing to mean male people as well. And then colloquially and casually, it's going to get used to mean male people sometimes, because you're just going to see a male person sometimes that you think is a woman, or vice versa. So it's going to have that colloquial meaning that doesn't necessarily map on one-to-one with the autistic fucking... You have to have a fucking reproductive system that was developed and designed around forming over, you know what I mean? It starts with the overall thing, and then there's like exceptions and things that like are used differently based on what we see. But at no point does that involve fucking gender identity. And at no point does that invoke, like, fuck, what am I trying to say? Jesus Christ. It's I don't know. I'm so irritated. I'm so sorry.
When I make that claim, it doesn't seem to me like most trans activists can even pretend that either.
What that says to me is that you haven't actually asked any trans activists what they meant by that. Essentially, to be a woman is to have the gender identity that closely aligns with the socially constructed category of woman.
So what's the socially constructed category of woman? And why would that define, or why would that describe butch lesbians or gender non-conforming men? I don't know, man. I need a good response to shit like this beyond it's fucking stupid. But that is literally just it. It's just stupid. It is just dumb. Like, that centers what you call yourself. What if you don't really call yourself anything? What if you just accept whatever labels people give to you and not really give a fuck? So then you're not anything. If that's what man and woman are. But no, you're probably still a man or a woman. Yeah, that does functionally mean that anyone is a woman if they say they're a woman. So what, do we base laws on that? That doesn't sound like a good idea. Kind of sounds like if male people are overwhelmingly more likely to sexually assault females than vice versa. You should probably understand why that is, and the kind of anatomical differences on average between the people doing all the rapes and the people receiving all the rapes and shit like that. It's just really fucking dumb. Like, it needs to be kind of a multi-layered thing if you're going to make it make sense. Where you regard someone as something even though technically they're not that thing. And it does make sense. It's probably not going to be the basis for like laws and stuff. But it's not because they call themselves a certain thing. If a person is regarded as a woman in society, it's because they resemble a fucking woman. It's that simple.
Transphobes will then complain that this is circular. You can't use the word you're defining in the definition.
Yeah, you can't. That's really stupid.
But the socially constructed category of woman is a different concept from having the gender identity of woman. They're related, but not identical. It's similar to how you can look up honeybee in the dictionary.
Oh, so you can just not vibe with any of the expectations of woman or like cultural ideas of what woman is. But because you identify as one, you still are, even though you're identifying something with which you do not relate to whatsoever. Like, why? Because of your sex? because your sex is female. It's just so stupid. Why is this? Why is this being done in service of trans people? Just stop. Just stop.
And then see that the definition is a honey-producing bee. Different but related concepts using the same words in different contexts.
Instead, if you ask a trans activist what a trans woman being a woman means, you'll get a long spiel.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is, if someone fucking pulls my pants down in the street because they don't believe or they think that I'm like fucking hiding something, they're not gonna potentially think I'm a woman because of my identity. It's because this fucking area here looks more like that on a female than it does on a male now. That's got nothing to do with my identity. That's a fucking action that I took, that I didn't take because of my identity. I took for the same reasons that I would identify as a woman if I did. And it's like my preferences and what drives me to be what. I've forgotten the word for it. Fuck. My inclinations, you know, my compulsions to just be a certain thing. Like, my identity would be derived from that. I wouldn't be getting surgery or taking hormones or whatever because of my identity. I just am this. What label I fucking give it doesn't matter.
That runs round in circles, never able to be pinned down on, nor arriving at a concrete truth that is even seeking to be described.
Oh, okay, so you just can't handle the idea that gender identity might just be a complex topic that has more nuance to it than a single sound-biteable sentence can provide.
It doesn't have nuance to it, it's just what you call yourself. It's like the most simple and obvious fucking thing going.
Even seeking to be woman means, you'll get a long spiel that runs round in circles, never able to be pinned down on, nor arriving at a concrete truth that is even seeking to be described.
Oh, okay, so you just can't handle the idea that gender identity might just be a complex topic that has more nuance to it than a single sound-biteable sentence can provide.
This is like saying it's complex why you prefer certain foods over others, to be honest.
And that means it doesn't actually function as a legitimate identity because it's not describing anything.
If the description is more complex than you'd like, it must not be describing anything. Gotcha.
Reason 7. Trans identity is not
Actually fucking wretched. Actually disgusting. Ugh. Ah, it's gonna get even worse. It's gonna get even worse. What time is it? Fuck's sake, man. Fuck's sake, man.
not valid because to be social...
I don't want to come back to this. I just want to get as much of this done as I can and just fucking have done with it, because I'm not making any sense responding to it. Because there's only so much to which I think this video makes any fucking sense, to be quite honest. And then all the responses, like, make degrees less sense depending on which person it is. If it's dead domain, maybe a little. If it's actual Jake, like 1,000 times less sense. Anyway.
Sociologically like something is not to be that thing.
Reason number 7 of King Critical's video.
Oh my god, man. Oh my god, man.
It's essentially just saying that you experiencing a form of King Critical's video is...
To be sociologically like something does not mean that you are that thing.
Essentially just saying that you experiencing a form of bigotry does not define who you are.
There are some contexts where we could say
I mean, that is true. You can be a straight person and experience homophobia. You can be a male person and experience misogyny. That is very true. I've experienced both of those things, but I'm not a homosexual male and I'm not a female.
Sociologically, a biological male might have experiences like that of a woman. But if I called myself Michael Goldberg and put up a menorah behind me, I could receive anti-Semitic comments and claim I am experiencing anti-Semitism as a Jew, but I'm not Jewish. And the point is, just because I could be mistaken for a member of a group, and you could have a valid sociological analysis that works on the assumption that I am a member of that group, it doesn't therefore follow that I actually am one.
Nobody is making the argument that a man who is doing something considered feminine and they might experience homophobia, that this means that they are a gay man. Trans women do...
Okay, so if a trans woman experiences misogyny, is that necessarily validating of them being a woman? Me personally, I don't think it is. because men can experience misogyny. Someone thinks that you're effeminate or feminine or have some trait that they consider woman-like, and they shit on you because of it, whatever. That's misogynist, but you're male. That's the argument being made.
Experience misogyny, that might be a form of validation that, oh,
No, it's not. It's not. That's the point. It's not.
experience who is doing something considered feminine and they might experience homophobia, that this means that they are a gay man. Trans women do experience misogyny. That might be a form of validation that, oh, society perceives you a certain way, but that does not mean that your gender identity is defined on the bigotry that you're experiencing from your surrounding. The argument is
Maybe.
essentially is just making up a concept and saying that, oh, so you think that you are a woman because you experience certain things that other women experience.
The point of language is to describe reality.
Yeah, I think that is his point. I think they did an okay job identifying that argument. They didn't actually argue anything, though.
And there absolutely is a need to describe the real sociological difference in the lived experiences of someone like me compared to a cross-dressing or even post-op so-called sex change.
You live in Hertfordshire then. Fucking hell. I grew up in Warwickshire and like every other fucking kid supported Man U.
Man.
But we have labels for that. We have the adjective cisgender. And nobody is saying that trans women are the same as cis women. Nobody is saying that trans women...
Nah, come on. This is disingenuous. People do in as many words say that they should be categorized the same way to far more of an extent than really they should.
experiences match one-to-one those of cis women. And it's also dangerous to say that you need to have certain experiences in order to be valid. And your shared experiences of cis women are 100% aligned. Cis women who maybe do not meet the societal expectations of what women
I
have.
feel like they're agreeing, aren't they? Your experiences don't really define you as like a woman or something.
Have to look like, sound like, act like, will have a lot of shared experiences with trans women because...
Yeah, experiencing misogyny equals being a woman. You do get people that suggest that experiencing misogyny like validates their trans identity, which it doesn't. But the problem is, what's annoying is anyone can just get up and say, oh, well, I don't know anyone that makes that argument. That doesn't mean that people don't.
They may experience a lot of transphobia as well.
There is an argument to be made that a trans woman is a valid identity, but only if we understand trans to not be a modifier like blonde.
See, you know what? Valid identities. Does it fucking matter? Like, I kind of just treat all identities as like neither valid nor not. You only really understand whether someone is like self-aware and identifies things that are true about themselves by like spending time with them and like talking to them and stuff. Yeah, Niara is actually less dumb than some of these people, I guess. Jesus Christ.
Tool or confident, but instead a modifier like faux, pretend, or substitute.
Reason 7 rests on the idea that trans women are pretending to be something they aren't. It is about how experiencing a specific form of abuse based on you wearing a costume does not mean you are the thing that you are imitating. Nobody is making the argument that a trans woman is a woman because she is imitating cis women and is getting the same treatment.
I actually half do make this argument. Really, well, to me, socially, whether you're a woman is whether people perceive you as a woman or not, socially. So yes, how well you imitate women actually matters a heck of a lot.
Cis women. It can feel validating in your identity for your environment.
You can identify as a woman as a male person, but if no one thinks you're a woman and no one treats you like you're a woman or refers to you as a woman except when you're fucking told to, you're not really socially a woman because no one sees you as a woman, you know?
to perceive you a certain way, but using that as a defining factor is not an argument that anyone has ever made. It is entirely making up.
Nobody is making that argument. It's a phrase I avoid because someone out there is going to argue something. Yeah, exactly. It's a complete waste of time. Like, why deal with this point then? Why not? I don't know. I mean, is it to be socially logically like something to not be is not to be that thing? Like, again, it's another one of those things where it's like, yes, that is true. But why you transition is going to be potentially having things in common with women. Like, if you're a man that's constantly receiving misogyny, that can inform your decision to transition. And I think to an extent I experienced that, like misogyny, homophobia. You know, being regarded as a gay man and that being a bad thing, even though I'm not gay. Being regarded as like effeminate or feminine or female-like or something, even though I'm still male. I think when you kind of are subjected to that over and over, if you're like a more feminine like kid growing up or whatever, and you get bullied a lot for it, for example, that kind of thing does inform your like your decision to transition. And it doesn't have to be you saying, like, I'll actually steel man Niara kinda. I hate the no one is making this argument kind of thing. But I do agree that we're arguing against a pretty shit version of the concept again. And that's a big problem I have with the video in general. We're kind of finding the dumbest versions of something that we can. And unfortunately, he's kind of justified in doing so because this shit is so pervasive when it doesn't have to be. And we don't have to be filling trans people's heads with like utter shit the way that so many of these people fucking are. Like, it doesn't make you a woman, and it doesn't inform you being more of a woman or less of a woman because you've experienced misogyny. But if you experience a lot of misogyny growing up, if you experience it consistently because of shit about you that you feel you can't help, you just are this way, it's gonna inform like how you feel about yourself. It's gonna inform how you see your place in society. You know, you might get this kind of point where it's like, well, I identify as a man, I just dress the way I want to, and I get shit constantly for being trans when I'm not trans. It's almost like, well, I might as well just transition then at this point, because I get treated this way anyway, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I fall somewhere in the middle once again, and there is a good version of what Niara is arguing. So listen, Dead Domain, Niara VT, definitely the best responses so far.
Up a scenario in his head and using it as a justification to say why trans identities are not valid.
Reason 8. Trans identity isn't valid because it operates.
And listen, they avoided doing their usual like Twitter spur kind of shit that they do that makes up most of their videos. They kept it short. Listen, surprise Niara W. There we go.
Operates on a reductive conception of biological sex. Now, in this case,
oh god, it's Luxander. Luxander actually like sets off my fight and flight a little bit. Something about this person just like I'm just somewhat allergic to, you know? Something there is just like, this reminds me of something that I don't want to be reminded of. I don't know what it is.
I am mostly arguing against a specific conception of trans identity, one that attempts to argue that so-called trans women are in fact biologically female. If we had
at least he's honest, you know what I mean? At least he's honest.
Baseline counting system, this would probably be the reason that didn't make the cut. Although in my experience, all trans activists will try to argue that biological sex is unclear, so they can present it as a less firm foundation for defining women, in contrast to trans identity. With this said, they'll argue biological sex.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty nuts to argue that actually basing man and woman on sex is actually more confusing and complicated and difficult than whatever the opposite would be. I forgot what I was talking about. Jesus Christ, man, I'm losing it.
Women, in contrast to trans identity. Counting system, this would probably be the reason that didn't make the cut. Although in my experience, all or trans activists will try to argue that biological...
Yeah, rather than just calling yourself, it's actually more complicated. Like, no, it's a lot more complicated to base things off what people say, for hopefully obvious reasons.
Sex is unclear, so they can present it as a less firm foundation for defining women, in contrast to trans identity. With this said, they'll argue biological sex is a checkbox of genitals, gonads, chromosomes, and myriad secondary sexual characteristics. And they'll say that many recognized biological females don't tick all these boxes, meanwhile, some trans women do tick them. So, therefore, they're women. What's missing here is a holistic,
Time is it here? 6:30.
systems-based understanding of biology. Almost all of biology is best understood with reference to function, which extends from obvious biological truths like evolution by natural selection. The point is that what matters with your body is the function it has developed for. And in the case of the reproductive system, it is the function of reproduction. And in human beings,
Yeah, Niara being reasonable, like, I think they have an extremely funny concept of bigotry and transphobia. I think they have this kind of entitled attitude towards being referred to as a woman or seen as a woman because that's how they identify. I have a lot of problems with Niara, to be honest.
there are only
I know PM, it's afternoon here. It's almost dinner time.
two functions that lead to reproduction, that of the small gamete and that of the large gamete. Hence, sex is a binary defined by which gamete size you are organized around facilitating the reproductive function of. Trans activists will be
Well, this is the best categorization of it, I think. It's the most inclusive.
reductive by arguing that one part of the system not working, or your body containing something more typical of the opposite role in this system, means that you are not, in fact, organized holistically around one particular function.
So we're arguing against bimodal sex. I'm probably basically going to agree with this.
This is the point that really warrants an entire video elaborating on it, but suffice it to say, if you aren't willing to understand that things can still be organized around a function, even while not containing all necessary parts, presumably you think that a fridge stops being a fridge.
Yeah, you develop towards producing sperm or producing eggs. Things happen along the way. That's why you don't say whether you produce one or the other. Who was the worst? Probably that Vice Rhino person. Like, actual Jake was complete dog shit. Riverboat Jack was complete dog shit. Alec Gunter was complete dog shit, but I'm trying to be nice. Because Mischief's in chat. Lucy Hayes, I don't even remember what the fuck this person said, to be quite honest. Dead Domain was very meh. Niara was very meh, which is a compliment now today, I guess.
Once someone removes the plug. The reason I'm a man is not because I have a penis. It's not because I have testicles. It's not because I have XY chromosomes. It's not because I have testosterone.
Anti-male homosexuality discrimination, a form of misogyny. It can be. If the reason that you're, like, having a go at a gay person for being gay is because you see that as, like, female-like. That's the thing women do, you know, fucking men. That's the thing women do. If that's your problem with, like, gay men, then that is misogynist, yeah. It depends on what the issue is.
It's because my body, taken as a whole, is organized around facilitating the function of the small gamete in sexual reproduction. By reducing biological sex down to a collection of parts and ignoring the system those parts speak to a role in...
I agree, he has no penis. I would pass it on, but he's probably still in chat.
Trans activists are fundamentally misunderstanding biological sex. And once we understand biological sex is organized around a clear binary system of sexual reproduction, it becomes clear how much more concrete and reliable it is as a means to define a woman in contrast to trans identity.
Hi, I'm Luxander Moss, and I talk about this subject all the time. Reason number 8 has to do with biological sex. So let's go. I guess I'll just start here by making a criticism of King Critical and his presentation of this topic. Basically, I come from a background on this where we try to be accurate with our language. For instance, we recognize...
Yeah, he would say the same thing.
is that there is a distinction between biological sex and like sociological gender. And so
This is the 20th time someone has said this in this video so far. Was there no coordination? Was there no, here's some of the really obvious parts. Here's some of the really obvious like points that if we don't coordinate it is going to come up over and over and over again. How many times do I need to hear that sex and gender are different? Jesus Christ. This is like so poorly put together.
So when I'm talking about trans women, I'm referring usually to the fact that they occupy a sociological space, but I'm sure that that's been
What does that even mean, man? What sociological space? What are you going to say that a trans woman that started identifying yesterday occupies the same kind of sociological space? Actually, no, I've got a way better example. Are you seriously going to say that someone like you occupies the same sociological space as someone like Buck Angel? Because this person considers themselves trans, but they're seen as a woman everywhere they go because, like, look and listen. It's just obvious. Compared to a passing trans man or trans person, what space this person occupies is completely different. And compared to a person that's been trans for like 2 minutes and someone who's been trans for 20 years, that space is different. And then it's also different from one person to another, how they look, how much they integrate as the sex they're going into, and that kind of thing. I don't know how you'd group trans people based on this when it varies so wildly from one trans person to another.
I didn't watch this whole video, being completely real with you. I only
Jesus Christ. This bodes well, doesn't it? This bodes well.
am paying attention to the segment that I'm supposed to react to, and also not watching the video. I just downloaded the transcript because boy howdy do I not want to listen to this troglodyte talk. I take
Jesus Christ, dude.
issue with the bioessentialist definition of woman reducing all women to their biological reproductive capability. This is like pretty basic feminism stuff.
No, they're not.
With the bioessentialist definition of woman reducing all women to their biological reproductive capability.
They're reducing what it means to be a woman to that. They're not reducing the entire person to that. The whole point of feminism is like, well, originally would have been like, well, we're female, but that doesn't define us in this, that, and the other way. It's not, well, my womanhood can't be about my sex. Otherwise, all that I am is my sex. That doesn't make any sense.
This is like pretty basic feminism.
Do you see what I mean as well? Like, there is a certain way of like patronizing me that just makes me go fucking berserk and I can't help it, okay? This is that person. The way that they talk down to whoever they're like arguing with or arguing against, because they're on the line and they do it there as well, and it's fucking disgusting and I hate it. And it's being done in my rights. Fuck off with that shit. I don't want it. Who's asking you to do this? Matt Dillahunty? He ain't fucking trans. Like I'm just allergic. I'm just fucking allergic. So I'm not unbiased. I have an extreme fucking aversion to this person. I should talk to King Critical. I probably will. I mean, I'd be happy to. I would want to put more like substantive like versions of my own arguments together, but I'm more than willing to. Oh no, I muted it.
Stuff, you guys. This is like second wave feminism stuff where we don't define women primarily by their sexual or reproductive.
What were like the tenets of second wave feminism? I mean, they campaigned for reproductive rights. So I guess their femalehood had to have been important. Did second wave feminists argue that them being a woman isn't due to them being female?
Reducing all women to their biological reproductive capability. This is like pretty basic feminism stuff.
Oh, Steve is live from America. I'll have to have a look. He fucking deletes his like lives now. It's so annoying.
You guys, this is like second wave feminism stuff where we don't define women primarily by their sexual or reproductive function.
So what do we define women by in that case?
Women are people with much more going on for them than just that.
That's not mutually exclusive with woman means female. You can think that a woman is a woman because they're a female and still acknowledge every other part of them that's got nothing to do with them being a female. It's just that every other part of them has got nothing to do with them being a woman.
And it does, in fact, invalidate the genders of cis women when you prize those characteristics above all others. Like women who can't get pregnant, who have infertility problems, do.
That's literally why they say things like designed towards, organized around, producing one or the other gamete. They use those words because people develop and then some of them can't have kids. How are you misunderstanding this argument this badly? Obviously it's not. You're a woman if you can get pregnant. Like, is this person this insecure that they can't just listen to the video, understand the argument, and then argue against it? They just download a transcript, don't even fucking probably read it. Oh, it's bioessentialism. Okay, well, I'm going to do my stock argument against bioessentialism. You're a woman if you can get pregnant. No, duh, no. Like, I hate this person so much. Dude, Jesus Christ, dude.
Feel like they have failed as women. This causes harm to more people than just trans people.
That's utterly retarded and not at all what he was saying.
But anyway, King Critical's way of trying to
You understand, you are making me defend this person, Luxander. As a trans person, you are making me defend this person right now. Who's the real transphobe here? Who's the real transphobe here? Who's the real fucking transphobe here?
sort of debunk the trans side of this is he criticizes trans activists for arguing that biological
Thank you, Jamso Tasty 6. Thank you. Hope you're good.
sex is Critical's way of trying to sort of debunk the trans side of this is he criticizes trans activists for arguing that biological sex is, what does he say? Argue that biological sex is unclear so they can present it as a less firm foundation for defining women. So again, I'm not using biology as a basis for defining women. I'm saying that those are two separate things. But if we are to get into this trans activists debunk the trans side of this is he criticizes trans activists for arguing that biological sex is, what does he say? Argue that biological sex is unclear so they can present it as a less firm foundation for defining women. So again, I'm not using biology as a basis for defining women. I'm saying
Yeah, no one is saying that.
That those are two separate things. But if we are to get into this conversation where Casey is basically saying like, oh, I've heard trans activists say that trans women are in fact biologically female, and he criticizes this, and it's interesting because I actually use
They haven't considered studying philosophy. Here and there. I should get into more philosophy. I think maybe it would help round out my worldview or something. I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff that I really need to learn more about.
this argument quite a lot, and so this was an opportunity for me to delve into it with a little.
So you actually use this argument. So just fucking all of this was useless then. This is going on too long because you are just yapping.
Bit more curiosity. He says, you know, oh, these trans activists will argue that biological sex is a checkbox of numerous features like gender.
Well, this is how bimodal sex works. It is kind of a checkbox. These are the things that are female and these are the things that are male. If you have one of these that's from the female and all of these that are from the male, then you're on the male slope, but you're like slightly further towards woman.
Genitals, gonads, chromosomes, and all the
Which invalidates the ever-loving fuck out of self-ID, but never mind.
secondary sex characteristics. He basically says that's wrong, and wants to reduce this down to gamete production. So,
well, is there not a good reason to reduce it to gamete production? When the reason that you grew breasts and your voice didn't drop, the reason you have the kind of phenotype you do and shit like that, will be because you were born and formed ovaries. You went down that pathway. Your development was organized around producing large gametes, not small gametes. Are you going to say that wasn't true? Like, I don't know, man. We're finding the smallest thing we can essentialize something down to because it's easier to categorize that way. That is just kind of how we do things. That's how these people do things too. Should we boil women down to just what they say they are? You could say the same shit. That we're essentializing something too much down to one thing. But people pick and choose when it's fine to essentialize something down to something quite concrete and quite small. And when you shouldn't do that and you should treat it as a big kind of complex thing that has multiple factors. People pick and choose which ones are which, if that makes sense.
if we're looking at the field of biology, I agree, and maybe this will surprise some people, that for the purposes of evolutionary biology, it is a fact that within that subfield, for the purposes of understanding evolutionary reproduction and things like this.
All this caveating. Yes, sex exists. Thank you. Well done.
That, yeah, basically we define male and female by gamete production in that specific context. Human beings are anisogamous.
Not just in that specific context, just in general. You can fairly essentialize it back to that. That's the model. That's the argument. What can you fairly essentialize sex to instead of that? Or why is it not valid to essentialize sex down to that?
Create small and large gametes and they connect, and that's how we reproduce and further our...
Like, they can't have it both ways. It's either actually no, there's a better way of doing it and this is it, which would be like bimodal or something, which probably sucks, let's be honest. Or it's actually no, sex is incredibly complicated and it just doesn't make sense to essentialize it down that small, and you make that argument. That's what these people need to fucking do.
Species, that's part of our evolutionary history. Congratulations, Daddy Dawkins, giving you a little pat on the back, King Critical. Good job, you figured it out. But actually, it turns out that evolutionary biology is not the only kind of biological study. Developmental biology.
Oh, that gave me fucking chills down my spine. This person like repulses me. You don't understand. And we've got some fucking freak VTuber. I know we've got two freak VTubers because Suris has taken the last one.
For example, or clinical biology, like, you know, anything to do with the medical field. In those biological contexts, like if you take any classes about developmental biology, that is how they define sex, by numerous characteristics. It's called a polythetic categorization. A monothetic categorization is like...
Yeah, but where do they come from? Where do all these like different things that they base it on come from?
The gametes one, which is useful in its own context of evolutionary biology, right? But when we are discussing complex topics like medicine and the role that sex plays in our day-to-day lives, and I don't mean like, listen, calm down.
What is this? Don't try and be funny, just fucking get on with it.
But when it comes to our day-to-day functions, and like I said, especially medical situations, sex cannot be defined solely by gamete production. It would be wildly irresponsible from a...
Why not? They're still going to treat patients as individuals. Sex is just something that informs certain things about them. So why not?
Medical and developmental standpoint to reduce it down to just that. Here's why. So something that you may not have known, Mr. King Critical, is that trans women, let's focus on trans women because that seems to be the crux issue that people always have, is like we talk about trans women all the time. So a trans woman, when she has been on estrogen for a period of time, so sometimes people will scaremonger about hormones and be like, OMG, it raises your risk of cardiovascular disease or whatever. Here's the facts.
It raises your risk of blood clots. I don't know about cardiovascular disease.
Men and women have different cardiovascular risk. Like, I don't know what the exact numbers, but when a trans woman is on estrogen, she develops a cardiovascular disease risk that matches that of cisgender women. They also have an increased risk of breast cancer because, first of all, they have more breast cells.
Yeah, you could say the same about fat men.
And second of all, because estrogen is like the hormone that is associated with breast cancer specifically. It may also surprise you.
Yeah, so like naturally, Who produces more estrogen? Women. So you can change your body to more match something, and that should be taken into account. They should still know which sex you are, and then know like your history. They'll know what you're like prescribed with. It's like in medicine, why does this matter?
You to learn that trans women's risk of prostate cancer plummets to
Oh, this person altered their voice by taking testosterone for like a month or something.
match basically that of cis women. Like it's largely unheard of for trans women who've been on estrogen for a long time to develop prostate cancer, because estrogen shrinks the prostate and prevents it from, it's like literally high testosterone.
This is so off subject when it comes to sex. We just categorize sex a certain way. And then like, you only get more risk than other men. Okay.
Testosterone is what is associated with prostate cancer. So from a medical standpoint, from a day-to-day, here's what actually matters in your life standpoint, biological sex is a polythetic category based on numerous different features. And so when we are talking about transition, medical transition, we are able to change enough of those circumstances to generally trend toward the other side. If you
Okay, so, oh, well, I'm medically a woman because I have certain different medical risks and certain different things I'm more now likely to develop or not develop because I've changed my hormone profile. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Leave trans people alone. Just shut up. Just stop.
your breast cancer risk and your cardiovascular risk and all of this, if that all matches a cisgender...
That doesn't mean you're like now a medical woman. That just means that you have different risks because you've taken a fucking thing. Any medication can change your like risks of different fucking conditions happening that we don't associate with sex. What is the point in this?
woman, and let's say you get...
I don't need to be validated as a woman because technically I have a higher risk of fucking breast cancer than a fucking man. Like, that's really neither here nor there. What are we doing? What am I doing with my life listening to this shit? What is anyone doing with their life listening to this shit? Why has this got over 10k views? Yeah, the most recent video I put out got like fucking 200. I actually put effort into my shit. I actually make things that make points and make fucking sense. And you get like fucking 228 views and some fucking cunt fucking censors you. So you have to do it again and settle for even less views. Because no one actually gives a fuck when people fucking transgress each other's freedom of speech for the most part. When it's like a small person, what the fuck do? You just get fucking stepped on and deal with it and take the fucking strike that'll last for fucking 90 fucking days now. Hope none of the rest of these fucking cunts come after me because I'm fucking vulnerable. Now instead people want to watch this utter fucking garbage. It sucks. This sucks.
Surgery to remove the gonads and you get surgery to build a vaginal canal, then for many intents and purposes, you are ticking the boxes for female. Now, an interesting thing that King Critical...
Well, yes, but you're not ticking the box where your body developed around producing one gamete or the other. And that's still important. That still matters. There are certain similarities between trans women and women. That doesn't mean that trans women are now women. You could take other people. You could take, like, men that have taken, like, HRT for other means. Should they be considered, like, somewhat sexually female now? They probably don't consider themselves sexually female. I don't know what I'm fucking listening to.
also brings up is this is such a turf talking point that, oh, you know, I'm going to argue against this idea of a multi-trait categorization by being like, well, listen, it doesn't matter if, for example, a woman gets a hysterectomy. Her body is still organized around the production of large gametes. So here's the thing. I looked into this a little bit. And
well, yeah, they spent the rest of their life growing up with this in there that has been affecting their development. And kind of determined how they'll look, how they'll feel, all kinds of stuff.
And that's not how any biologist defines biological sex. Like, I looked into the evolutionary biology aspect of this a little bit, and it doesn't say anything about being organized around it, because like that, at that point you are taking into account a bunch of additional features. So It's kind of like you want to have your cake and
No, they're saying organized around, so that they're crossing off the what's the word? What about fucking infertile people? That's why they say organized around, because you do develop one way or the other. There's like a pathway.
eat it too. Like you want to focus entirely on gametes, but you also are taking into account all of these other features that are, quote, organized around the production of those gametes, but you also don't want to acknowledge that biological sex is a polythetic characterization.
This is like getting stupid now. Fucking hell, man.
That's a completely like not scientifically based position. If you were to just stick to the gametes and say evolutionary biology says that males and females are defined by the production of small and large gametes, I would be like, okay, that's extremely
Has she got a medical background? Almost certainly not, but I guess I don't know for sure. So I'm speeding this. This is fucking stupid, man.
particularly helpful, but you then take the extra step to try to say that being organized around it. So it's basically what you're saying is if you have a number of characteristics that tick the box for female, then you're a female and you're a woman. But only if you at some point could have produced large gametes. I don't really understand it. That's a completely ascientific position. I have not been able to find any literature that supports that. Correct me if I'm wrong, King Critical. You didn't provide any source.
Whenever someone says, "Oh, I couldn't find anything," like you either didn't look very hard or you. I don't know. I just don't trust it. I don't trust it.
Sources, I don't think, for any of these statements. Nope. Looking through your little description. Nope. You didn't provide any sources for any of this information. So yeah, I don't really know where you're getting this. I mean, I know where you're getting this. It's a turf talking point, but I will concede and acknowledge that biological sex from a evolutionary perspective. Sure. Again, we are anisogamy. We produce two different types of gametes for the purposes of reproduction. But when you're talking about human experience on a day-to-day basis and how do we address this in a way?
Yeah, but what is a male or female experience? How do you even like?
That really makes sense and actually addresses people's needs, it's very clear that reducing it down to gametes or weaseling your way out of focusing on the actual evolutionary biological explanation for these things and going with this like kind of willy-nilly vague organized around principle, it falls apart with basically any prodding. So yeah, trans women are women in a sociological sense, and trans women who have undergone transition are in most
trans women are sociologically women. If like, do we mean? Sorry, just one sec. Yeah, a trans woman is sociologically a woman, if they're perceived by the rest of society or enough of society as a woman. Not every trans woman is sociologically a woman. Some of them do not resemble women, and no one's going to call them women unless they are fucking told to. In which case people don't actually believe it anyway, you know. So this sucks. You're stupid. You're actually fucking terrible at this. The only reason you're on the line is because the line is a fucking psyop, okay? The fucking line, fucking Matt Dillahunty, Arden Hart, all those fucking people, they're right-wingers, they're psyops, okay? All of these people. This is a fucking psyop. This just exists to make atheism and trans people look as stupid as humanly fucking possible. Because these people are actually fucking right-wingers. Fucking Riverboat Jack was on the fucking line. Luxander's on the fucking line. It's a psyop. These people are psyops.
meaningful medical ways biologically female. Take a fucking class on developmental biology. Anyway, I have these kind of conversations all the time on Q&A line here on YouTube. The line...
yeah, they suck, and you're a prick, and your attitude fucking stinks on the line, just like everyone else is on the line, because the line is a psyop, and it's meant to make us look as bad as humanly possible.
YouTube channel call-in show thing, and I post clips on my channel, Luxander Moss. If you want to see me having these kind of conversations with people in real time, this was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Reason 9. Trans identity isn't valid because it equivocates around the term gender. Trans activists say that sex and gender are different, and they're right, but they don't seem to be clear on what sex and gender actually mean. Gender can mean masculinity and femininity and all the things those terms imply for someone's life. But gender can also be nowadays used by some to simply mean man or woman. The problem is that trans ideology is based on the blatant, even if perhaps unintentionally, dishonest framing of just saying sex and gender are different and then sitting back as if mission is accomplished because obviously we're all going to take...
Yeah, I've mentioned a problem with this kind of thing. There is a way. Never heard of social norms, hence why certain expectations exist. If you have a beard and dress like a man, sociologically you're a man. If they say they're a woman. Yeah, exactly. People like that, they all want to treat trans people as some kind of monolith, when you're having a very different experience depending on how successful your transition is and how much you're actually perceived as the other sex. And if you're never going to be perceived as the other sex, then you need to know that as soon as possible. And either come to terms with that or don't fucking bother transitioning. Like, get out while you still can. It's very simple. Like, there is the potential you will transition and still not be societally accepted as a woman. That just might just fucking happen.
Sorry, that's just anti-trans.
Who, in your opinion, is the most destructive TERF, and who is the least? Thanks, loving your channel. Orange heart emoji.
Thank you for the £12. FunkGod666, thank you. Most destructive TERF. Who was the worst in this video? Because these people are all TERFs. Like I said, this is psyop shit. Probably Vice Rhino or Luxander. Those people are very destructive TERFs, and they are all TERFs. Least destructive? King Critical looked like he couldn't destroy a wet paper bag, so I'll say him.
Take gender there as referring to whether you're a man or woman. They'll talk about how gender is fluid and complicated with reference to fashion, behavior, roles, and how all of this can change from person to person. And then they act like they've just done enough to prove their belief that biological males can be women. What's obviously missing is any argument for why we should understand all of this being true for gender with reference to masculinity and femininity, therefore also being true for the...
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the sex and gender thing being different is important because you're not changing your sex. You're trying to like transition gender socially. Like that's as much as you can do because you can't really change sex. And there's no point in like arguing over whether this or that or the other constitutes a change of sex because you're just trying to argue that you're, you know, a valid woman or something. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. You're just yourself. Whereas you can say, you know, I transition gender as in like, I want to be regarded as a woman in society or something like that. And that makes perfect sense. So you can make trans make sense talking about gender, but not really by talking about sex.
completely different concept of gender referring to man and woman.
But then the problem is that people will just say, oh, well, they're just different things, and that's supposed to answer the question. That doesn't work. People need to get good at that kind of shit, to be honest.
Understand all of this being true for gender with reference to masculinity and femininity, therefore also being true for the completely different concept of gender referring to man and woman. Equivocation is a logical fallacy because just because two words are spelled and pronounced the same doesn't mean what's true of one of those words is the same as the other when those two words are in fact describing completely different concepts. Everybody knows that gender...
Yeah, man and woman being genders is like stupid, in my opinion. I don't know, it's hard to explain. I've been saying this the whole time. I don't know why my brain is so fucking minced today. Something. Like, it's not really about there being separate things to male and female, and those are man and woman. It's not really about that. It's just about whether you can become the other in people's heads. It's about whether people see you and they assign you woman even though you're actually male. That's what transitioning from one to the other is about, ultimately. And in that sense, you can say that you've changed from a man to a woman based on what people are seeing, even if it's not objectively true, you know?
Masculinity and femininity can change.
Like the idea that genders, like man and woman are genders, and you change from one gender to the other because you identify with the social version of this gender or that gender. Like, well, that's just stupid, man. It's just stupid. It's what people see you as. And if you don't try hard enough, people aren't going to see you as what you want to be seen. And if you're genetically unfortunate, people might not see you how you want to be seen. It just kind of is what it is.
From person to person, that it's totally fluid, that obviously a biological male can be feminine and a biological female can be masculine. That's all totally irrelevant because we're talking about gender, the categories of man and woman. Since the main argument for trans identity being valid is based on a logical fallacy, it would seem it's not valid.
Hi, I'm Maria Rosella. I'm a gender-affirming therapist. I'm trans.
There's something really weird about trans people becoming gender-affirming therapists. I don't know how to put it, because I never want to be one of those people being like, oh, trans people shouldn't have specific jobs because it confuses people or whatever shit. But when it comes to like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, man. It just really bothers me. And I don't know, if I found out that any of the people that I saw in order to transition were like doing this kind of shit, it'd be like, is this what being trans? I don't want to be anything like this.
And this reason has so many problems. When people come to see me, and trans people in general who choose to transition, we are very, very aware that there is a difference between our sex and gender. His whole reason has very this energy.
Road work ahead? Yeah, I sure hope it does.
The difference between us and them is that we believe with gender-affirming medical care
Okay, this person's very old. At least we've got that out of the way.
that sex can be mutable. Gender identity is that internal sense of what it means to be a gender. And gender dysphoria
That's really stupid. Like, your identity is just what you call yourself. It might be based on a sense of your gender or something. But that's just feelings.
gender-affirming medical care, that sex can be mutable.
This isn't true. You can't become the other sex. Not if to be the other sex means that you'd reproduce with the large gamete, not the small gamete, if you can do either. And if your infertility was fixed, then you'd still produce one or the other.
Gender identity is that internal sense of what it means to be a gender. And gender dysphoria is when that internal
That's just the most. You could make that mean literally anything ever. You know what I mean?
sense is not recognized by other people. Just because it's a feeling doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. The vast majority of mental health conditions are diagnosed by feelings. There are a few that you can
Fucking sound is dreadful as well. Jesus Christ.
get with brain scans, that you can get like with other actual medical
Like, whatever overdrive pedal they're using, I want one.
concerns. So like, for example, if you have low vitamin D or low iron, you
Yeah, I don't think this person got the prompt, to be quite honest. I don't know. I don't know what is going on here.
might be depressed. But everything else, we use quantitative self-report scales to determine if someone meets the criteria for what it means to have a certain disorder compared to the general population. Gender incongruence is not considered a mental health condition. There can be mental health stuff from the incongruence.
I don't think gender incongruence exists. I think gender dysphoria exists. I think you might be you might be unhappy with your sex or gender in a way that's pathological and thus is a mental illness. Gender incongruence is nothing. It's just another way of saying gender dysphoria.
And gender affirming care like lowers the mental health externalities caused by the incongruence. But
Like gender incongruence is another of those things that you just identify into. In that sense, no, it's not a mental illness. It's just calling yourself something.
gender dysphoria in and of itself is not considered a mental disorder. Additionally, I would argue that based on my work and general personal
This
experience,
person just advertising. Like, what was it got to do with anything?
that the internalized gender of male or boy or whatever is different than the trans feminine experience. We tend to feel that there is this like divider between us and our peers that we're supposed to have when we are younger. And
They want to reduce the self-directed actions necessary to be perceived as the gender they identify as laziness. Yeah, I actually agree. I agree with that.
so there's something happening before we
Like, some people won't pass or aren't willing to do the shit it takes to pass, and they just want to be treated the way they want to be treated and don't want to do any other work. That doesn't do it.
even get into like what it means to be a man or a woman here. Now I kind of just want to get snarky in general. Like, a lot of qualitative data can be gathered and become quantitative. That's literally how the social sciences work. And he seems to have feelings that the data out there that goes against his worldview doesn't matter. That's not how science works. This isn't even addressing other
I never want to hear another fucking queeroid tell me what science works like. Just stop.
scientific concerns, like that sex is a
You literally think you're the other sex to what you are. Don't tell people how science works. Just fucking answer the question.
spectrum of concepts that we bundled together. It is a social construct. Literally, I am intersex. I am not strictly male if you check all of those boxes. I was never that, but I still identify as transgender because I was assigned in a social sense a gender and it didn't work out for me.
It's just not what being trans means. It's not that you were assigned a gender that didn't work out for you. You're male and you wish you were female. You're female and you wish you were male.
So I transitioned. That isn't to say ever.
It's like the most weird, like, clinical language possible to make it sound more, like, valid or whatever than it is. It doesn't have to be valid. Who fucking cares? Just do what you want to do. What's all this weird language around it?
Everyone who's intersex is transgender, but a lot of us are because the social construct stuff is put upon a biology. So you have the literal sex, then you have the simulacra, which are the ideas about sex that we put upon it to talk about the literal biology. And those are very, very different things. It's so baffling that in the previous point, he thought that would literally help his argument. But, he's kind of said it for me.
Trans activists say that sex and gender are different, and they're right.
He thinks we equivocate on sex and gender. He's the one that's actually doing that. He's equivocating sex and gender. He thinks they're the same thing because he's
How so?
also equivocating other important topics related to gender that if he spent just a few minutes, he would be able to understand them. Google is free, my friend.
So we're not even actually saying why, we're just posturing.
But maybe, actually going to school or even reading like the Wikipedia page for some of these topics might be too hard for him. So let's take him back to school. Let's update his outdated.
I really think I should skip this, to be honest. This is like unbearable.
PP and vagina gender and have a lecture. Gender is a social construct that is related to the roles that are associated with, but not exclusive to biological sex, that are shaped, thus socially constructed, by the cultural and historical context of said roles. As I said before, gender identity is an internal sense of one's gender, and gender expression is how one indicates their genders to others and how they interface with the social construct of gender.
Gender identity is not an internal sense of one's gender. It's a label you put on yourself based on this. And based on other things. It's not just about your internal sense of your gender. And it's just, it's the label, not the thing. Like, to identify something is to put a label on it. But your internal sense of your gender is not unfalsifiable. You can think you're something and be wrong. You can think you're something and then change your mind later on. So it's always changing. So it's not actually innate, because it's affected by your experiences and shit like that.
Genders to others and how they interface with the social construct of gender.
The problem is that trans ideology is based on the blatant, even if perhaps unintentionally, dishonest framing of just saying sex and gender are different and sitting back as if mission is accomplished, because obviously we're all going to take gender as referring to whether you're a man or woman.
So clearly he is the one that is being disingenuous because he says all of the above concepts are the same and also that they should be one-to-one with sex. I have demonstrated that sex is a complex thing that is bigger than like what genitals you have or any of the other concepts around it, and that gender is not this very
No, you haven't demonstrated that.
narrow idea. You have gender as a broad thing and then the two other concepts of
What the fuck is this? The gender unicorn. What the fuck is this? Oh, you wanna fucking grandstand about science, and then this is your source? These are your sources? These weird things that were made for like fucking 10-year-olds by the look of it?
Identity and gender expression, which he's talking about masculinity and femininity, as all the same thing he says, but it isn't. And while he doesn't explicitly do this in this video, I want to take a moment as an intersex person to talk about how people like him use the unfortunate incident of David Raymer as some kind of gotcha that there's no biological component of gender identity to trans people. I would argue the exact opposite. He had an internal sense of gender that Money / his family, John Money, the sexologist, and his family tried to change, and he rejected it. The same is true for trans people in general, and that is what was true for me as an intersex person.
Everybody knows that gender, masculinity, and femininity can change from person to person, but it's totally fluid. But obviously, biological male can be feminine, biological female can be masculine.
So I'd like to take a moment for all my students in the class, because he's obviously not going to actually learn anything, that if you hear someone say, everybody knows, you should basically disregard anything they have to say, because they have not researched it, they're just trying to appeal to common knowledge. without actually looking into a complex topic. Yes, you don't need to cite little details like who the current president is, but when you're making an argument about the sciences, be they social or otherwise, you have to define terms. He's not doing that. He doesn't want to do the actual research. He is using a logical fallacy of appealing to the general populace, and it shows that he doesn't have the understanding that he's pretending to have. But hey, he did say this, so...
Trans activists say that sex and gender are different, and they're right. Well, I guess that means it's my turn now. And finally, reason number 10.
Wow.
Trans identity is not valid because even trans activists don't accept it.
Well, that's kind of weird because I accept people's trans identity. I mean, I'm a guy who's actively dating a trans woman and I accept her identity, so...
Yeah, fucking someone isn't fucking accepting them. What are you talking about? Alright, I'll play your thing in a sec.
Oh. I don't know where the hell you're coming from. Like, this is one of those points that feels like you have to pretend that you're able to read my mind.
Or maybe it won't. Thank you, FunkGod666 for the £5. How does a trans person verify a subjective internal experience without relying on stereotypes, or do they? I don't know. I don't know if you do, like, verify subjective internal experiences. You're just kind of going on what it feels like. But I mean, the thing is, you're going to be subjected to stereotypes and what gender means in society. You're going to be subjected to that from a young age. So your gender identity is being, like, informed by things like stereotypes, whether you want it to be or not. Because you're, like, you're interfacing with that shit and you're finding what you like and what you don't like and how that pertains to gender and society, So it's unavoidable, I think, that it's going to be somewhat based on stereotypes. And someone like me, I mean, I own it, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of stereotypical feminine stuff that I prefer, especially around, like, my aesthetic and stuff. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that answers. I'm sorry, I'm like, I'm like worn out by this shit, man.
In order to actually make, like, or somebody, because
it was a mistake me watching this shit. Thank you, Brian, for the £354. Thank you. I agree. I don't know why it's not playing stuff. I'm so sorry. Let me see if alert box, is that it? I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's not playing stuff. Thank you so much, both of you. Everyone adopts stereotypes to fit with their social groups. It's basic socialization. Yeah, I think it's just kind of intrinsically a part of it. But I'm probably not making much sense anymore. You can feel you like and dislike things, but you can't feel your sex. Yeah. And you can feel whether you like or dislike your sex, of course. And whether you tend to like the other sex or tend to like things aligned with the other sex or not. Things like that.
Should have more somebody comes in a chat and they're just like, you don't even believe this thing. I'm like, oh, really? Did you brain scan me? Do you have the fucking cerebral bore?
Yeah, once again, this utter cretin has paused after, like, word 5 in order to react to the beginnings of a point. He hasn't learned from last time. Because last time I watched him respond to King Critical, he didn't wait for the argument to develop and then take that down. He just reacted to things as he heard them.
From Turok 2, just trying to rip matter out of my brain? How are you seeing that?
This is pretty obvious and there's many angles from which you can address it. You can point out that trans activists who define trans identity by self-identity alone will still try to justify it as a sociologically valid categorization by appealing to the material conditions of living as a trans person. But then trans activists who do try to define trans identity with reference to material conditions in society will retreat to the self-ID point when someone accuses them of being sexist by defining being a woman by fashion and behavior and expected roles.
Okay, this is a little bit weird because, like, societal expectations for what is a man or what is a woman may change based on time and location, but once you're actually in that time or location, a big part of figuring out who you are is how you operate within whatever confines of gender roles that society has tried to put on you. The article goes on to say that when we view gender as an accomplishment and achieved property of situated conduct, our attention shifts from matters internal, so self-identity, to the individual and focuses on interactional and ultimately institutional arenas. In one sense, of course, it is individuals who do gender, but it is a situated doing, carried out in the virtual or real presence of others who are presumed to be oriented to its production. Rather than as a property of individuals, we conceive of gender as an emergent feature of social situations, both as an outcome of and a rationale for various social arrangements, and as a means of legitimating one of the most fundamental divisions of society. This means that gender is as much a thing that society, you know, it being a social thing, imposes on people as it is something that is internal to people, to their lived experiences. But because it is multifaceted and multi-layered in that way, it may seem like people retreat when...
It's another non-trans person explaining to other people how trans works, by the way. Stop doing this, please.
You try to press them on something, but I would argue it's less a retreat and more trying to attack something from a different angle. After all, if I can't explain a concept to somebody, I may try explaining it a different way, even if that way is not necessarily as accurate as it may be in another conversation. For instance, if a child doesn't understand the concept of plasma, trying to explain what the sun is may be a little difficult, but if a kid understands the concept of fire, because I can start one right in front of them, then explaining that the sun is a ball of fire is a good way of getting across what it is to the kid, even if it is technically inaccurate, because it's actually a ball of plasma.
Of course, what you can do for some entertainment value is ask a trans activist who insists that biological sex is irrelevant to the categorizations of women, okay, can a biological female be a trans woman? And they will immediately say, no, of course not, because biological females are cis women. They can never be trans. So biological sex doesn't matter, except when it comes to protecting the integrity of definitions they care about.
Okay, so...
Yeah, cutting out sex from, like, trans is, like, the most retarded fucking thing ever. You don't want to be the sex you are, so you try and become the other one.
Cis and trans, these are definitions that we use in chemistry to determine whether something is the same as...
Oh, we don't need... Oh my god, man, just answer the fucking point. Just answer the fucking point. Why are so many of these fucking retards? Is like, you get them to, like, make a little documentary on a person, and they insist on, like, starting from, like, the moment they were born and trying to describe their childhood. Like, just talk about the shit that's relevant. Remember when no one gave a second thought of trans people as we slowly improved the rights of trans people? Yeah, listen. Trans visibility was a double-edged sword for sure. I don't know. There's more of them around, so I feel like I actually experience much less transphobia than I used to. I don't care about what I experience on the internet. I don't give a fuck about what people say. But apart from that, like, all this kind of shit is just embarrassing. I think what's actually happened is people leave me alone now because of how much more embarrassing shit there is out there. But yeah, I really wish these people would just shut up about trans issues, to be honest. All they're doing is making people dumber.
Or different than. If somebody's experience was growing up female, biologically female, if that's the word you want to use, then yeah, that person can't be a trans woman in the same sense that somebody who was born male would be a trans woman. Now, you can have a woman who is trans because there are definitions of trans that allow for non-binary genders and stuff like that.
Yes, and those fucking definitions need to go. We need to start making trans mean about 25 different fucking things, some of which have nothing in common with each other. They're just also pertaining to gender in some way, but in a completely different and completely unrelatable way to other types of trans people. So why have we got this many types of trans people then? People just want to be part of the club. Trans became the kind of trendy thing, and people want to be part of the club, but they don't actually want to fucking transition. They actually want to change their body in any way, because they don't actually want to fuck themselves up. They don't actually fucking really feel this shit. They just want to be part of the club. They just want to be referred to as trans so that they can be one of them. But you're not. That's the problem. And we got afraid of gatekeeping for some reason. Actually, gatekeeping is a good fucking thing. Every word needs gatekeeping as to what it doesn't mean. Otherwise, it means nothing. Because then whenever someone wants to use a word to mean something it shouldn't mean, or it makes no sense for it to mean, You have to accept it. But these people do gatekeep language as well, you know? So they understand this, but they also want to be part of the club.
That does exist. But the framing of this kind of leads me to believe that you're doing all of this entire channel, this entire...
If a boy is raised as a girl but then returns to identifying as a boy or trans man, yeah, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, no, if you're female, you can't be a trans woman, because a trans woman is male. Necessarily. It is a necessary thing that if you're a trans woman, you are a male. Otherwise, you're not a trans woman. You cannot be a trans woman. You're just a woman.
Entire experiment, not because you believe you're accomplishing something that is good or right or anything like that. It's like you're just...
Oh, and we've just gone on to ad-homs now. Wow, amazing. Wow, amazing. Suris sucks. Did I mention that?
Just trying to be a Redditor. And I'm not meaning that as an insult, though I kind of am. I'm meaning it like, instead of arguing, does this thing, this idea of gender, the way we operate with it, does this make society better or make society happier or what have you, you instead go, no, I'm going to play devil's advocate, no matter how much suffering it may or may not impose on other people. And I think that's kind of sad. And
what
it's just an...
suffering does King Critical impose on other people? You're like trying to make him out to be way cooler than he is, to be quite honest. Like treating him like this final boss of fucking Gender Critical. Talking about the harm he did. What harm? Who the fuck is trans that's even listening to King Critical in general? It's just pissed off trans people that are sick of the TRA shit. They go and watch that kind of shit for a while, because at least it's something else. At least it's not the same bullshit we've been fucking shoved down our throats by largely non-trans people for fucking ages now. What are you talking about?
Observation that I've happened to make looking at what you do on your channel. That is in no way a refutation of your argument. Simply
weird people rejected from society discovered their weird behavior was tolerated in trans spaces, so quickly flocked to exploit those spaces. Issue was trans people being called transphobic. Yeah. Yeah, we weren't allowed to like put our foot down and say, this is what trans means. You know, you're one and you go to the other. Like, we were too scared of like, you know, and then anyone that did try and put their foot down in that way, you know, you wouldn't expect black people to accept white people just calling themselves black into their demographic. You'd expect black people to want to gatekeep what it means to be black. But like, trans people can't do that with their own shit, even when it does mean something fairly specific, or certainly started out that way.
Stating that definitions cis and trans are naturally against one another, so a cis woman would not be a trans woman in most definitional statuses.
What do you mean most definitional? Like, this is why it's such a fucking clusterfuck, because it just means nothing and everything at the same time. If a woman can be a trans woman, then trans is fucking meaningless, okay? It means nothing. And you are a non-trans person telling me that my shit, that I got my fucking body changed for and shit like that means nothing. Well, no, it means something. I'm sorry, it fucking means something. It's not just calling yourself a thing and being trendy on the internet. It actually fucking means something. Just because your dipshit partner might think this kind of thing and be like fucking overdosed on fucking soy, it doesn't mean all of us fucking are. It doesn't mean you can speak for any of us.
That's not really a contradiction. That's just how those words work. And after all, what are words if not a way for you and I to communicate with one another? If you understand what I'm saying to those words, then the specifics...
Yeah, the problem is I don't understand what you're saying when you say trans. Because you will accept so many different paradoxical definitions of the word trans. I have no idea what it means when you say trans anymore. That's why it has to mean something specific.
Cease mattering as much as their utility does. But there was another thing in this point where you said that women being defined by fashion and gender roles was something that we retreat to, and that is something that you want to undermine with the cis versus trans thing. But you understand that, like, woman is a word we've used to describe sex and a word we've used to describe gender. And often, if people are not careful, they tend to use these words interchangeably. I don't know, just an observation of the kind of...
Oh, Suris would never pull in ContraPoints. He doesn't have that kind of clout. And I still, listen, I've hated on ContraPoints. I still hold out that that person is sensible enough to understand that this is the most retarded fucking shit in the world and would want nothing to do with it. I'm still, listen, the ContraPoint stan in me is never going to quite go away. That is certainly the case. She was still one of the better ones, whatever you want to fucking say about her.
the flippant use of language.
I'm not saying that makes me a woman. Trans women get sexually harassed, but I'm not saying that makes me a woman. I like to wear wigs and makeup, but I'm not saying that makes me a woman. I'm sexually submissive, but I'm not saying that makes me a woman.
Yeah, there are sexually dominant women, and there are sexually submissive men, and I'm not sure what kind of point you're trying to...
Yeah, he's completely forgotten. He just pauses, gives his thing, and then treats the next thing like a self-contained sentence or something. Suris sucks at this. He's dreadful at this.
Make here. The concept of gender, as we usually understand it, is, well, for lack of a better word, a performance. It is what you do, but one of the most important parts of that gender is what you identify as. So if you like doing all of those things...
Why? Why is it what you identify as? Why is that important? To some of us, it's not important. They can switch it up when it suits them. Yeah, like... I kind of get it with some gay and lesbian people. I kind of get it with like the bisexual stuff. And I think if you're kind of, I don't know, you can't just force team yourself with a bunch of people because you have slight tendencies in the same way as them, and then tell them they have to accept you as the same as them. Like I think that's pretty cringe. That's not to say that like bi people shouldn't be considered part of the LGBT or whatever, but it is a very different thing. You know, it has a lot of different implications for how your life is going to be. And you can be a lot more normal. You can be a lot more like socially normal if you're a non-binary versus a trans person that's going to follow the pathway and do everything they can to be considered the other sex. Just like if you're going to be committed to only ever having sex with other men or dating other men, being seen around holding hands with another man. That's a bit different to a guy who might fuck a guy once here and there, and then will get married to a woman and, you know, just be seen as any other straight person. There's definitely a parallel there for sure.
Well, for lack of a better word, a performance. It is what you do, but one of the most important parts of that gender is what you identify as. So if you like doing all...
Like, this is so ridiculous as well. If gender is performance, then what does identity matter? Because that just means that you can identify one way but perform a different way. Then what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize the performance or the identity?
Sure what kind of point you're trying to make here. The concept of gender, as we usually understand it, is, well, for lack of a better word, a performance. It is what you do, but...
It is partly what you do, it's part of it. But part of it is also what other people see. It's how your performance is received, not just how it's performed. You can think that you're performing womanhood by being like, you know, a male person with a fucking beard, but you're not going to be received as performing womanhood. So that matters too, because it's a social thing.
One of the most important parts of that gender is what you identify as. So if...
And this is bullshit. Like, you want to tell me that the most important thing about my gender is my identity? I don't identify as anything. I'm just me. I don't care what I'm seen as anymore. So to me, it's like all performance. It's all how I present myself and shit like that. The identity part just isn't a component for me and isn't for all people.
If you like doing all of those things, but you also identify as a woman, then yeah, that's where you are. The conversation is broadened when we talk about the multiple components that go into how gender is understood, how we study it, how people even come to understand what their gender is. Again, I would highly recommend looking into any of the actual psychological science on this. For something that
I hate this person. I actually despise this person so much.
Actually had trouble understanding myself. Look at something like dissociative identity disorder. So I actually, for a decent bit of time while running my channel, would argue that DID didn't fucking exist because nobody exists as multiple people in their own head. And then I started actually doing some studying into DID because I wanted to figure out if I was going to argue.
Nah, come on, bro. Come on, bro. The reason you changed your mind about DID is because you started getting fucking audience members that think that they're fucking plural systems. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, bro.
You against something, what my position actually could or should be.
I bet this coincided with him fucking simping hardcore for trans people, even though plenty of trans people wish he'd fucking stop. I bet it was the same kind of time that he started accepting DID as more of a real thing. I bet you that that's the case.
what I found was that, no, the psychological data that we have on dissociative identity disorder is that our identities are fragile things that can fracture, and sometimes there is other personalities where people's heads can go as a result of trauma, as a result of fracturing. And then I learned that one of the methods that therapy tries to use to try to help people with DID is to try to reintegrate those personalities into one another so that you have one whole person, not...
Yes, and in the meantime, if they want to transition, they just say, hey, let's just get the consent of all the different alters, instead of, this person's sense of self is clearly fucking out of whack. Maybe we should deal with the DID first and then transition them.
You know, the equivalent of a handful of headmates. And it was fascinating learning all of that and realizing that I was wrong about something. But I'm not just telling you that story to say that you're wrong because you don't know the science, bro. I'm telling you that story so I can say from a position of empathy, from a position of somebody who also had an idea of how we understand something psychologically, how we understand something sociologically, and realized I was wrong and had...
This is so patronizing.
...had to eat cud as a result of it.
This is Alec Gunter's radical empathy, by the way. It's... You're wrong, so I'm trying to be nice to you to understand so that I can help you be right. It's coming from a place of, I'm right and you're wrong still. So it's not actual empathy.
I feel like the same thing is going to happen where you're concerned.
I talk in this very convincing feminine voice, but I'm not saying that makes me a woman. Trans activists spend...
Like, all of that would be like me being like, I realize that gender identity is kind of bullshit, and you'll be the same one day. Like, imagine I just said that kind of thing.
So much time clarifying that what they're talking about doesn't make them a woman, you'd almost think they're stuck in a situation where anything they could possibly appeal to doesn't actually justify them being women at all. And you know that the only definition that would actually make sense, biological sex, is unfortunately the definition that would make it absolutely clear they were never women in the first place.
You know, it's interesting that for a top tier video, you didn't focus your camera for that bit there, but I'm not gonna lie, I've made mistakes like that as well. Anyway, this is why I...
Wow, very, very important addition to this video that's totally not far too fucking long as it is. Wow, well done.
See why you made your point about my video in regards to yours, because you say a lot more here that has nothing the fuck to do with your actual 10th reason, and I didn't argue against all of it. I mean, Dwayne Gish would be blushing with the amount that you're galloping here, but it is your video, so if a gallop you want to do, a trotting you will do. I do find something interesting there, though, the biological sex part of your conversation. I'm just curious here. Do you know what would happen in a world where we define things only by biological sex? We would just be incentivizing people to transition faster. You see, for some trans people, the trans part is just them not identifying with the gender they were assigned at birth as. That makes perfect sense to me. I don't identify...
No, it doesn't make any sense. It's just calling yourself something other than what you are.
With the religion that I was given early on in my life. These changes can happen in the human brain. But the reason the biology part is so interesting to me is that there are so many of my friends who are trans who have undergone actual biological changes in order to operate closer to the gender that they are assigned as. I don't want to name names here because there's really no point there, but I have friends of mine who are trans men who are treated in society as men and operate as men and look like men, and a lot of that is because of...
Yeah, and look like men. That's why they're treated like men. It's because they actually resemble men. It's not their identity that matters in society. It's what they're doing. How are you, like, fucking saying this out loud and not realizing in real time why the gender identity argument is, like, the worst fucking version of trans? And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter what they identify as. They present the way that they do, and that's what informs people, like, what they are in terms of being a trans person. They're a trans man. They're going to be seen as a man if they fucking resemble a man. It doesn't matter what they identify as.
Of HRT. Likewise, I have friends who are trans women, and one of the reasons that they're able to operate in society and not suffer is because they underwent transition help, be it HRT or surgeries or other...
I have no idea what that means. They're able to operate in society and not suffer. Has this guy had a head injury or something? Is part of his fucking head missing? Is that why he uses the fucking VR thing? VTube thing?
Things so that their gender and sex can be closer aligned. It is fascinating what
does that mean? Your gender and... Like, that's not the reason why you do things. It's not so that your gender and sex can be more closely aligned.
Things so that... Because they underwent transition help, be it HRT or surgeries or other things, so that their gender and sex can be closer aligned.
What? I hate it. I hate it.
It is fascinating what we are able to accomplish with modern medicine and modern science. You mentioned a variety of societal factors that somebody could go through that still don't make somebody a woman because of one reason or another. And I find that fascinating because we actually have the same thing in biology in terms of this conversation. Biological sex is a label assigned by a medical professional at birth based on physical characteristics, usually just genitalia, and then other biological determinants. I like how the American Society for Reproductive Medicine even also says that gender is a sociological and legal construct that varies by culture. You know, something I mentioned earlier in this video. The complications arise when you point out that while XX and XY chromosomes are often associated with female and male sexes, variations like XXY, XYY, and Klinefelters and all kinds of other things can also be in here to muddy the mix. And then when we look at primary sex characteristics like genitalia and reproductive organs, and then secondary sex characteristics like body hair and...
So this is just how someone is defining sex on their website. What the fuck kind of source is this for anything?
breast development, well, those are all things that are used to determine the biological sex of a person. It notes that these traits can vary wildly even within the same chromosomal sex. So, as an example, what do we call somebody who is born with a vagina, has breasts, have female internal reproductive structures, but have an XY set of chromosomes? You may think
still a woman.
I think that's fantasy, but I just described Swyer syndrome. The fact of the matter is, biology itself is not clean and cut. It is messy as hell. And the fact that biology is messy, brains are messy, and social constructs are messy are why I, as a trans activist, choose to believe whenever somebody who is trans tells me what their gender is. I don't have access to their brains.
No, it's because you're a panderer. It's because you're a fucking grifting piece of shit, pandering fucking loser. That's why you believe anyone that just says they are what they are, whether it's true or fucking not. It's because you're fucking politically fucking swayed that way. Just be fucking honest. Stop lying to your fucking audience, you fucking hack piece of shit.
So I just believe the words that they tell me. If a trans woman tells me that she's a trans woman, I'm not going to try to pretend that I'm an authority on that. I'm not. The difference here, though, is that despite you...
No one's fucking asking you to. But if someone else decides, well, I don't think you are, that's up to fucking them.
Saying that trans activists don't...
Oh yeah, he's also a chaser, I forgot.
Believe what...
Actually, he's probably not a chaser, it's just that no actual women are interested. That's probably more what it is.
They actually say, because we have a variety of ways we're used to trying to defend either ourselves or the people that we care about. I think your biggest problem is that you don't believe what trans people are saying when they tell you about their lived experiences, when they tell you...
Dude, as if I believe what fucking cis people tell me almost any of the time either.
What their life actually exists as. You basically just try to Reddit philosopher your way into not thinking about it at all. Trying to do this...
What's he even fucking... Just... Oh my god, man. Just shut up.
This is devil's advocate, I am always right, because if you can't argue your existence perfectly, then your identity is...
Let's just get to the end of this fucking video, man.
Valid. And that's the thing that's also fascinating to me. You know who doesn't tend to have to argue about our existence being valid? Cis people. You know, like you and me. We don't have to do this. Likewise, we don't have to fight other people.
Yeah, no cis men are ever like called women all the time and called like girly all the time and had it suggested to them that they're not actually a real man. That never happens to cis men fucking ever, does it?
When they feel like they have to fight about their identity, about who they are, when they are trying to claw for any bit of legislation to be stripped away that is trying to take away their access to healthcare.
Like women never feel like they're not women enough because they're not matching up to certain beauty standards or certain expectations, or they haven't had kids yet and they're a little older than other people they know who have had kids or whatever shit. No one ever is like pushed to like question that kind of thing or invalidate other people, even when they're not fucking trans.
We don't have to be things that are screwing that up for them. But between the two of us, you choose to. And after all of the myriad reasons given to you by all of the other content creators here and myself...
Stop making King Critical seem cooler than he is, I fucking beg you.
I am just absolutely baffled that in all of this, you choose, through your use of this devil's advocacy flippancy, you choose to further the suffering of others. And that confuses me.
Stop making King Critical seem more cool than he is. What are you doing, bro? What are you doing? What the fuck is your damage? This is so fucking retarded. Like, maybe Suris is the worst one. I've changed my mind. I hate Luxander. I hated fucking Vice Rhino. That guy's a fucking loser. Actual Jake fucking sucked. I think Suris might be the worst one. This is like painful. These people, someone needs to put it to them what it actually looks and sounds like to plenty of trans people when they hear these fucking ally dipshits trying to like stick up for us. I don't know how to convey this to these kinds of people because they just assume that I'm a fucking pick-me transphobe, whatever shit. Someone needs to convey to these people what it looks like. It's so embarrassing.
I don't understand it. It seems either pointless or cruel, or some awkwardly useless combination of both. Maybe you'll consider this a better video. Maybe you won't. Quite frankly, I don't really care. But I did feel like in some way, shape, or form...
Yeah, I can tell you don't care, because this video was shit.
I owed it, maybe not to you, but to myself to take a better crack at this. And so I once again want to thank all the content creators who helped me put this video together. K-Fox, my wonderful...
Well, I think people want to be treated, you know, nicely in society. I think that's fairly normal.
Editor, my patrons who keep my channel up and going, Alec Gunter, Dead Domain, Lucy Hayes, Luxander, Niara, Ria Rosella, Vice Rhino, Actual Jake, and Riverboat Jack. All of you for coming together and helping me make this happen. I know a 10-person collaborative project is not an easy thing to pull off, 11 when you consider the editor, but I'm just happy that we managed it. And you know what? We took a better crack at this than I did when I did it solo, so there you go, I guess. Once again, and this is not for you, Critical, this is for everybody who's watching that isn't you, please consider subscribing to everybody who helped make this video what it is. I appreciate your time, I appreciate your view, and for all of you who are still struggling with whatever you are in life, hopefully my channel can be a place where you feel like you have to struggle maybe a little less. That said, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, you made it to the end! I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time.
That was fucking dog shit. Why did I watch that? Why did I watch that entire thing? I don't know, man. If people find some interest in watching me just fucking lose my fucking shit and lose the ability to form coherent sentences, then maybe this fucking stream was worth doing, I guess. What are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say to this shit, man? What are you supposed to say? What's Steven been doing?
Okay, guys. These operations on young people.
Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Can a woman have a penis? And a Spencer?
So that's another way that they can attack it.
There's an Iran protest? What the fuck is he doing? So he's just wandering around this area in the US and like... Oh, he sees a flag.
Okay, here we go. There it is. In all its glory. What do you think about that flag, mate? Do you know what it is?
Yes.
What is it?
It represents the people with alternative lifestyles.
Yeah. And also, those blue,
Where's the boards? He doesn't want to get shot.
pink and white colours represents the transgender flag. Yeah? So people who like to mutilate and sterilise young children, you know what I mean? So
I just seen a guy this morning.
Yeah.
He had a shirt on. He thought it was so cool. It said, "I love Swedish boys." But he was a man with a shirt on that said, "I love Swedish boys." I could not say nothing.
It's not right. So what did you say to him?
I said, "How could you walk around saying you like Swedish boys?" I said, "You're a pedophile." I said, you're telegraphing that you're a pedophile.
Yeah.
When you say I have a shirt that says, "I love Swedish boys."
Yeah.
A man's...
What the fuck are they? Is he just like talking to himself the whole time?
Now, so look, here we go. Rainbows everywhere. I'm going to do a left down there because he's talking about this area, but I just want to show you this bar here. He definitely...
So wait, he's just finding all like the gay shit in Washington DC. I saw a flag down here, and down here is a rainbow crossing on the road. And down here there's a pub that's for like gay people and that.
It wasn't wrong. In all its glory, what's it called? Boo, a Thai restaurant. Well, I'll tell you, if you want your operation. Oh, who's that has just donated? Thank you so much. Let me have a look. Thank you, Mark and Janice. Really appreciate it. Whoops. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, look at this. In all its glory.
Oh no, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
as well as next door as well. You can sit there too. But I'm gonna take
Wow, a vegan place with like woke shit all over it. That's really surprising.
you. I'm gonna take you right down this street here. So we've got. It's not.
Went to the fucking gay area and there's all gay shit here. Imagine that.
The crossings aren't as in your face as the ones in Blackpool, because the whole crossing is obviously in the colours. Whereas here, they've got it just on the sides. That's a big crossing. Right in your face, isn't it?
No, not really, Steve.
Fortunately, Rainbow Wizard, I haven't got my boards with me. I only brought hand luggage. I was only here for a few days. Look, the signs are everywhere. Yeah, so I was only here for a few days and it costs quite a lot of money. And the class is oversized luggage as well, so it's quite a bit of money.
Costs money? How much does he fucking make? He's overtaken Billboard
that's
Chris,
just
you know.
anti-trans.
Thanks for the CBT, not the therapy. Video Mary, great stream.
Thank you, Sadboat1657 for the $5. Thank you. Yeah, it's been fucking painful, but hey, listen, we did it. We did it.
To check them in. There's no
epic content.
I've not seen any poison dart frogs or, you know, any
So he's just going around looking for like gay flags, rainbow shits, anyone with dyed hair. Like, what is the point in this?
Piercings or anything like that so far. But you've got a UK flag down there, you've got a Union Jack. But then, unfortunately, okay, we've got those flags next to it too, can you see? And again, we're at another crossing. And there we have it.
What is the point in this? Just walking around expressing his disappointment every time there's like a gay flag in a window or like something on the road. Was there that little to talk about or do when he was in the US?
So, JR's bar hasn't got any rainbows on it. So, if you ever come to Peace Street, go to JR's bar instead. Oh, we've got rainbow globes in this one. Rainbow globes.
It's like actually seething.
Oh, it gets better, guys. It gets better. There's no escaping this. There we go. Look at that. How beautiful, hey? Yeah, they don't push it on you at all, do they? No, they just want to get on with their lives. Of course, the thing is, don't get me wrong here. So it's what Pride has become, you know. I've got gay and lesbian friends. In fact, there was one.
MKR and breaks don't count as lesbian friends. Hugh Anthony doesn't count as a gay friend.
Gay guy called Eldor, respect event. So it's nothing against being gay, nothing against being lesbian, but the Pride event and the Pride Progress flag has become political, and it's a kink fest. Okay. Street sense. What's street sense? Is that LGBTQ paper?
Well, we work with them too.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm very gender critical though. I don't think that a man can be a woman if he just puts a dress on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you think they can?
I've seen it.
Have you? What do you think? No, really though. Do you really believe that?
Well, you know what, by me being, I see it all the time. I see it all the time because you got transgenders up here. Want to be women, just like women. And,
I mean, they can dress like it and they can look like it, but does it actually make them one?
Oh, you know, not really, because you know, you born, you know, they were born men.
Yeah, you are, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, I don't say anything to them because they get upset, you know.
They get upset, right? Okay, yeah.
They get real upset when I say, and like, I say something like, "Oh, this is what I'm supposed to be," so they feel they're born like that. So.
Right, I tell you what, I'm going to buy one of your papers from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm really interested to see what it says in it. 1 second.
My name is Mr. Taylor.
Your name's what? Sorry.
So I'm supporting the gang.
I'll give you $5.
Okay, this is.
I know there are only 3. Is that you?
I lost my mother.
Oh right, okay.
My mother passed. So this is. Well, hey, how you doing? This is my article.
Okay.
And we have speaks in Spanish, English.
Okay. I want it in English, if possible.
Oh my God, you got me on it.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Hey, what's up?
Okay, we're speaking to an audience live in the UK.
Really?
In the UK. There you go. There's the money for your paper.
Thank you. You give me $5 here. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you for, you know, this is his paper right here.
Okay.
I imagine.
And I just want to thank you. Hi, everybody out there. How y'all doing? My name is Sybil Taylor. This is my ID. I am a Street Sense vendor. I've been working for Street Sense since 2008. I work with Jamie Foxx. I know everybody knows Jamie Foxx.
Everyone knows Jamie Foxx, even in the UK.
Yeah, I worked with him. He was doing a homeless script, like homeless guy on the bench. So I let people know that I'm on the internet. I'm on YouTube. Okay. Like if y'all want to look at my videos,
check on YouTube, guys.
Yeah.
What's your YouTube? What's your YouTube called?
Street Sense Media.
Street Sis Media.
Sybil Taylor.
Sybil Taylor.
Yeah.
Street Sis Media. Street Sense, bro. It says right. Fucking hell.
Let's have a look at your badge again, Sybil.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, good.
Hold on, there you go, guys. Check her out. Oh, no, point it the other way. Point it the other way.
This way.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. We got it. Guys, guys, check her out on YouTube, all right? You get loads of new followers.
Oh, I hope so. I really hope so.
Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to have to move on.
Where are you from?
I'm from the UK, from Manchester in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, you don't find too many nice people like you. You don't find too many nice people like him out here. Because you're very nice. It's like these are monsters. I'm dealing with a lot of monsters down here.
Yeah, a lot of monsters down here.
Yeah, they're very nice. I mean, why be like that? Why don't you just be kind to one another? You know, like let's be kind to one another. You know what I mean?
That sounds good to me.
This my lipstick. I got a lot.
Is that your blue lipstick and eyeliner? Is it the same stuff you put on your lips as your eyes? It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey. This is the same one.
Okay, listen, I'm glad he's having fun in America. Listen, there's not much else. There's not much else to say. Thank you for watching. We did the most painful video ever uploaded to YouTube in one stream. I never have to watch it again. Thank fuck for that. I hope people are understanding why I don't really cover TRAs very much anymore. It's because it's the same shit it's always been, and it's a waste of time, and it's dying out. More and more people seem to be rejecting that shit. And I don't know. I do need to like try and script some stuff that consolidates my feelings on some of the TRA stuff. I do have a thing that I've been working on slowly. That's kind of all my transpositions, you know, tranifesto, if you will, for it actually making sense and not being this utter retardation that gets pushed in our name on YouTube and on social media all the fucking time. But hey. Thank you for watching. I'm going to stop now. Have a good day. I love you all. I have a Discord. I have music. Check out my music in the links in my description. Whatever else.